I don't think I've ever heard anything about your family. This is awkward.
It is a little awkward. It's mostly just confusing.
Should we hold hands right now?
No.
I have 2.
You have 2 hands?
Yes.
Well, that's oddly a coincidence.
Well, we're going to tell stories about bad parenting or anything like that I'm going to have to be left out of the conversation.
Max was raised by wolves, but they were badass wolves.
No, they were just very generous wolves.
Generous, caring
They
wolves.
gave him an equal share.
It wasn't equal. It was proportionate to what he contributed. They didn't want to give him things he didn't deserve.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. I don't know what's going on.
Hello and welcome to episode 23 of Learn to Wargame. This is Brandon, or PG Mutilus on the forums, and I'm probably going to drop Meanoth because they're terrible.
This is Spence. I stalk the forums.
I don't know if it's just the forums.
And Facebook. And playgrounds.
In middle schools.
Probably your mom's house. It's not stalking middle schools. And I'm also going to drop Meanoth simply because Brandon's bad at them.
Fair.
This is Max, Age of Egos on forums. And,
he's about to get 2 free Meanoth armies.
I'm about to pick up Meanoth. Not at all.
He's never going to do that.
Alright, so today we're going to talk about perceived power level versus true power level, or at least the way we perceive it, which is totally different than the meta. It's
completely and utterly true.
Basically, we're going to go through and state our personal opinions on how we feel certain casters are either overvalued or undervalued throughout the different factions. So, we're going to go in War Room order, because that's how I did my list.
Oh, God.
So, starting with Signar. I said the most overvalued caster is Kane 2, and to be fair, he's on a big downswing lately, because it used to be almost always you'd see Haley 2 and Kane 2 as their 2-list pair for Signar. And I never really understood. I like Epic Kane as a caster, and of the 2 casters of Signar I've ever bought, he was one of the 2. But I just don't feel that he was ever as strong as people perceived him to be.
I've played against Kane 2 very few times, only 2 or 3 times, and every time was in a fucking tournament. I will say, however, Severius 1 versus Kane, or Kane 2, the most fun I ever had was the fact that as long as I played it correctly, there's nothing he could do to me at all. So I will say that, I'm not going to say that the Kane player was amazing, immaculate, and wonderful, but he knew a hell of a lot more about Kane 2 than I knew about Sevi 1. And it was just fun, the fact that I'm not going to say he's one-dimensional, because I don't know everything about the caster at all, but because you know what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, but he has a strong game plan. He has a lot of support for the list that you usually see ran with him. And he does a lot of personal work, which is fun.
True. You know how much I love the idea that he can do what he wants.
I think he's got a strong play in the current meta, but it's definitely on the lower end. And I don't know, he's a competitive caster. There's no question about that. It's just I don't think he's worthy of being considered in the top 2, and he hasn't really been considered that for a little bit. But I don't think he's more than middle of the pack.
I could agree. I think that if you're gonna play Kane 2, that you really need to know how to do it well, because you're going to have this little, I guess, you're going to have this huge cycle of people who do Kane 2 badly and people who just play Kane 2.
There's been a lot of copycats in the last year.
And just because you know that a caster was to be played a certain way and it can be played well doesn't mean it's going to bode well. It's like the number of Haley 2 players out there that just play the typical Haley 2 bullshit and don't actually succeed. That's okay. But, that doesn't mean her strength is going to give them an auto win. It says the same thing about Kane 2.
All right, and the caster I think that was undervalued the most in Signar was Kane 1.
Awkward.
Why?
I want to say Cray.
Cray? I think Cray is where he should be.
Nemo 2.
I think Nemo 2 is undervalued, but of the one I picked Kane 1.
I say Cray because I want Cray to get played more. I feel like he's fucking fun. I want to see him on the table all the time.
He does some cool stuff.
Doesn't have enough focus to do this cool stuff.
Yeah, he can only really do one or the other every turn.
That's cool. That's all I'd want him to do.
Kane 1 has a lot of really good buffs that people just don't take advantage of anymore. And I don't know why he just instantly died in the meta. But it seemed like 2 years ago he was actually pretty popular and he just literally disappeared.
I don't, it seems similar in my head to Kraos 1. And I understand Kraos 1 is still very strong. I mean, still incredibly strong in a lot of games. People view him as being strong. But I don't see a lot of people who play the big flashy fun stuff wanting to play those somewhat one-dimensional casters. Kane 1's feat, very simple. It's just very simple because it doesn't have this overarching, massive, crazy effect that you can point at somebody like an arrow and kill like Kane 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not as backbreaking. It's good, but it's sort of thing where it's simple. I feel like Kraos 1. Kraos 1, very simple feat. If you use it correctly, you're going to get a ton of work out of it, but it's very simple. And I feel like a lot of people don't want something simple. They want something that's going to be flashy and fun and playful.
So, like Denny 1's feat being overly simple, like just models and air control area get -2 to everything.
Denny 1, I feel like she gets played all the time over all the other Crix casters.
She does?
Yeah, that's later conversation.
Anyway, so as the only Signar player at the table, Max, what do you think?
I think Signar's bad and they should feel bad.
Fair.
I agree.
No,
That's generally true.
Yes.
I like Nemo 2 as an underplayed caster, but mainly in his tier list, because
Weatherman's OP.
Stormcrawlers are cool.
Ron Swanson doesn't play Signar.
That's very true. Although they are the Swans and he is the Swanson.
As far as overrated, I couldn't honestly pick one. I literally didn't. That's one of the factions I couldn't think of what's actually overrated, in my opinion, because I think everything's about where it should be.
Now,
I felt like I was kind of reaching for Kane too, but I do think he was overvalued for a long time.
when I was looking at the list with...
I don't know. I still think he's one of the best assassins in the game.
He can be. I don't know if he breaks the top 10 of assassins, but he's definitely strong and assassinating.
Top 10?
The problem with
Probably absolutely.
with any ranged assassin, because he has to basically do it by himself, where a lot of other ranged assassin casters, like Osian and Raven, they're really just allowing their army to kill you, and like Lil 2, they're allowing their army to kill you, where Kane 2 literally has to kill you by himself. Right, but also...
He runs a ranger within 5 inches and then does it by himself.
Right, but there's ways you can get around that. Like, if you kill all the rangers, if you stand in cover, there's a lot of ways you can mitigate a single model trying to shoot you. He's still got to get line of sight to you through your army. Like, there's a lot of things that have to happen. He has a lot of tools to help with it, but it's still, he has to make it happen.
I just want to say it on the air, and I've said it to you literally just maybe an hour or so ago. When I was looking at overrated casters for Signar, I was really reaching because I feel like all of them are just good. To say overrated is bad.
Not all of them are good.
I want to put it out there that I think that Haley 2 is, while she is backbreakingly powerful and so stupidly good, like I said earlier, it's who you're playing. I think that's going to be a big
that's
deal.
true.
So sometimes you'll sit across the table and see Haley 2 and you think, okay, this is going to be an uphill battle. But you may know the game better than that person does. They may think that their list is strong and not know how to use it very well. They may have no idea how to actually effectively use her.
Oh, no,
That
definitely.
means that, overrated, yes, but in the hands of who?
Right.
So that's going to be the thing.
Power of a caster and ability to demonstrate that power in a game is completely different.
Well, but I'll say, though, that what you're going to actually see when you put it on the table, I feel like a lot of times those casters who are considered to be ridiculously powerful, because they are ridiculously powerful, they get played much more often because of their perceived strength.
Right.
You understand how strong she is. But when she hits the
I
table...
feel like half of that is because when you dojo to build a list, you always plan for your opponent making 0 mistakes. I mean, that's how you have to go about thinking about it. It never happens,
That's true.
but that's how you build the list.
Mm-hmm.
But talking
I do
about-
think that's a really strong one. I think we should definitely, if we don't finish talking about this now, we should cover that later in the episode after we're done wrapping up the casters, because there's definitely a lot of
I agree.
exploring that can be done there. So, moving on down my
What's the
list.
next faction, Brandon? What's the next faction?
Next faction is Menoth, which I'm going to tell you right now, hands down, the most overrated caster in Menoth. Are you ready,
Harbinger?
Spence?
Is it the Harbinger?
It is Harbinger of
It is
Menoth.
completely the Harbinger. If you don't know what the Harbinger does, you have never played somebody who plays Menoth, because they won't shut up about it.
That's fair.
I set him on.
As the most overrated? Really? So you think he's straight garbage?
I don't think he's that good.
No, actually, I think
Because everyone thinks he's not good.
I think
they think he's
saying
probably
currently is he believes that Amon is given a 1.5 on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is the highest.
and he deserves a
and
1.
I feel like that 1.5 is grossly overfavored as to where he needs.
That's what I'm.
The problem is him pulling off what he's supposed to do means that he just dies.
I think.
Usually.
Okay, well let's talk about Harbinger right now because we're talking about at least mine. And then you said, Raza, the reason I think Harbinger's overestimated on her power level is because she has many weaknesses that she has absolutely no out for. She has no out for heavy range attrition against her specifically. She can be weak to range in certain situations. Usually you have a devout to mitigate it a lot, or even a book, but it's still there because you can't guarantee your devout's going to be there, or your devout doesn't get disrupted or something.
There are just some casters, and I know this is true about a lot of people across the board, but there are some casters that whenever you play the Harbinger against them, that caster just kills your caster and you lose. Like, there's no
It's like Barnabas.
None at all. Yes. Fuck you. Minions OP. No, it's like, okay, Lilith 2, Cain 2. It's like, can't they just say the Harbinger dies? Like, can't they just, like, I win this game, and there's nothing you could say or do about it?
Cain 2 would definitely be a strong play against Harbinger.
I just feel like there's a lot of things like that. Whenever I put her on the fucking table, like, I'm terrified to see any decent guns on the other side.
Well, also, since she doesn't increase damage at all, she just increases staying power. You can, and like Butcher 3 actually has a really good game against her, even though he doesn't usually bring a lot of guns, because he prevents the martyring with Silence of Death. He can threaten her personally. I mean, there's just so much that she can't deal with against that stuff like that.
Now, if you're a good Harbinger player, you've played her plenty of times. You've played her against a ton of different things. You know how to use her. You know what advantages you need. And you know what you're going to do with her against these terrible matchups. And it doesn't mean she's bad. We're not saying she's bad.
I just think that her as the Messiah of Menoth is overrated.
Well, and it's been going on for long enough that I think that, once again, if you don't know how to play against a Harbinger, you just never played against Menoth.
I do still think she's an A-plus caster. I just don't think she's as good as everybody perceives her to be.
I think you could say she's an A-plus and then say that she's overrated.
I think they think she's an S-tier caster, like she's above...
God, you went to S-tier.
Yeah, we went to Plaid.
Wow.
But, I mean...
I see what
she's definitely up there, but people consider her to be one of the strongest casters in the game. I don't think she's quite there.
I agree. I have heard people put her on par with that during so many discussions.
It's like,
she's just not.
There's many people like she's by far the best in a way, the best caster in the game. And I'm like, you can't say that. One, because you could argue that for days, and then two is I just don't think she's quite as high as some of the other people in the game. She has a really strong toolkit, but outside of that toolkit, she's very vulnerable.
Can I say her toolkit's ridiculously simple too?
Outside of that toolkit?
Well, it's not a very broad tool.
She adds defensive tech and slight control. Her feat is a large portion of control, but that's all the control she has. And then she has basically purification and martyring.
No, well, I also think that there's underutilized things with her, because, things like Fear of God, fucking awesome
No,
spell.
I love Fear of God. It's ridiculous.
And do you ever use it? Because that's a fucking
I do use
spell.
it. It is, but the problem is, well, for starters, most people don't even take a Arc Node with her, which I would like to fit in, but the list we made, there's no room for points, but I would like to see a list with her that has an Arc Node.
With her. The thing is, I want her Devout instead. I want other models. But it's Menoth. You can run a ton of different things with her and do that.
The problem is she doesn't synergize with it at all, other than I just want to cast a spell through here. And she plays so far forward, you can usually argue with yourself that it's okay to not take it.
Well, a Hierophant gives it 12-inch range, and the biggest problem I'm going to have with that is the fact that I'm paying 6 points for a Revenger to put Fear of God on something, when realistically I may not need Fear of God on something. I may not need Fear of God out there at all, and I've spent 6 points on a Revenger, which I love the Revenger.
Crix might not need 8 points for the Arc Nodes. It's in almost every fucking list.
Is that really a negotiating point, though? Because Crix can take 8 points of Arc Nodes and still take a huge army of other things that matter. Whereas Menoth is a huge synergistic ball of hate.
What do you
think? First off, we can't compare points invested in Arc Nodes between factions, really, I don't think. Like, obviously, if Menoth could take a Bone Jack, they would. But that's one of the benefits of Crix, is they have the best Arc Nodes. Like, that's like one of their factions' go-tos.
Well, are they the best Arc Nodes?
Yes.
Are they not the best Arc Nodes? I think that the Blessing of Vengeance is good.
That are pretty good run for their money.
A lot of them has some pretty heavy restrictions. I think, personally, if we were comparing best channelable model in the game is the Convergence one. 1 point, it can run, and arc. It has to be within 6 of a Jack, but that's not hard in that faction.
So what about Spellmartyr?
Well,
a spell martyr is not bad, but it dies.
Can I throw this out there though, Max? I mean, and not to push the issue further than it really needs to go, but being able to arc Fear of God as opposed to being able to arc whatever spells a Krixcaster has, which I mean, I don't have all the Krixcasters off the top of my head, but realistically, a Krixcaster taking 8 points of arc nodes, I mean, they have more spells to realistically use through that. They have more options to use through that. You have Fear of God and Cataclysm, but
Cataclysm isn't really an arcable spell. Potentially it can be, but
you're not using it that way. You're just not. I mean, if you ever have to, you're fucking other things up, but it's not comparable. You can't say that you take it for that, but in her list, you're taking your arc node for that.
Because it's her only offensive spell.
But it works against everything.
It does work against everything. That's absolutely true.
It doesn't work against...
It works against units.
Every unit. It doesn't matter if it's dead,
Warrior model.
living.
Actually, no.
It works against units.
Yeah. But you can put it on a model also.
Yeah, you can,
but it works against units.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great thing to have. I love it. I've won games with it before. I mean, you throw that on a certain unit, and it's just crushed. It's done. It's just walking around.
No, I mean, I've played a game against casters where the ability to prevent orders literally costs you the game.
Just like Striker 2, I think Rebuke is currently
I've been crippled by Rebuke before. It's so dumb.
Well, you can also multiple cast Rebuke on a bunch of different things.
Yes.
And then also you have, huge armor buffs out there. So combine you can't charge with +3 armor. That's different than you can't charge with more
But just think about, I mean, and this is just one random fucking thing. I mean, if you have the ability to put an arc node in a position where you can early on in the game Fear of God a warrior unit, and now that thing walks 4 inches a turn and does nothing fucking else, that's almost crippling grasping. It's not as good. I'm not going to say it is.
I understand, and I do agree with that. I do, however, feel like that 6 points would have potentially been better spent anywhere else. Or not anywhere else, but I mean many other places. That's what most of the lists counterbalance against. Is that something that's absolutely good to use? And I played her with an arc node for forever. I really did. I loved using it.
Let's get Gravis out of there.
Just take Gravis, just pull him right out of there.
Gravis and what else?
Well, really, one of the paladins needs to come out for the fucking Hierophant.
No, I do agree. We need to change the list.
And
Hierophant is too valuable.
I'm okay with saying that the Harbinger is
still
overrated.
hard for me.
I have a problem with you saying she's an A+ caster if you think she's overrated. But that's semantics. It doesn't really fall.
Well, the problem is, what two casters... Name the two caster pairing in Menoth. It's Harbinger and what?
They were two.
Okay, but that's your opinion. A lot of other people think it's, Harbinger and High Reclaimer, or Harbinger and Krios 1, or Harbinger and Sevi 2, or Harbinger and... Harbinger is in every single list pair of Menoth that I have seen at a tournament as far as I can remember, except for,
Warmachine
newer players.
Did he play Harbinger?
He didn't. No, I agree, but I didn't see him playing. I'm just saying that Harbinger...
Let's name he.
Brandon Kading.
There you go.
But for the longest time, Harbinger has been considered it's like the Haley 2 of the faction. It's like, I don't even think she's the strongest caster in the faction.
She isn't. I don't think she is. I feel like that title, and the thing is, I didn't believe this until we sat down and actually discussed it. I really didn't. But it goes back to what we just said earlier. Kraus 1. He's a fucking incredible monster.
So let's talk about Raza for a second then, because we've hammered out.
Okay, Harbinger, done.
All right, Harbinger's done. You know our opinion. You don't like him?
No, he also has this big-ass chain weapon. Why doesn't it have fucking chain activation?
I thought he did for the longest time. I had no idea he did not.
Are we seriously discussing whether or not he is
4-inch reach or 2-inch reach?
Okay.
I don't think you can... I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but my biggest argument would be that his opinion is that he's at least the second worst caster in the faction, if not the worst.
Max, is your contention this big wave that I've seen recently that I don't really know who's responsible for, but just saying run him with a bunch of vigilance and just do that? Are you talking about the synergy span that people do that? Well, no, it's before Brandon even did it. There have been talk about it. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think there are many other things you can do in Menoth as a faction. Is that a bad idea? No, but neither is Kraos 2 Exemplar Spam. But I mean, it's something you can do, and hell, it's probably more viable than that. But I just feel like is that what you're talking about, the fact that they're pushing out, or are you just talking?
I think he's just making fun of Raza.
Man.
I love you, Max. Mine, I picked Vindictus.
You think Vindictus is overrated? That's interesting.
Oh, wait, no.
My pick for my underrated caster.
Damn it! I did it the wrong way.
All right, so Spence has no opinion on who's the overrated caster.
No, overrated?
Moving on to
overrated caster. I do have an opinion. I think it's Severius one.
Severius one is overrated?
Yeah.
Out of the 14 casters in that faction, where is he rated? In your opinion, based on
I feel like he's good,
the perception of it.
I feel like he's middle.
You think he's middle tier, and you think he's sub-middle tier?
No, I think he's middle tier. I'll put him right there in the middle.
But where do you think he's perceived to be?
I think he's perceived to be one of our strongest casters. Every time somebody says him, they say his name almost in reference. People talk about how good he is all the time. And he is good. He is. I have Menoth as fucking awesome. Realistically, though, we're Mat 7. We don't need to be Mat 8.
But sometimes you want to be Rat 7.
That's awesome. I love Rat 7. But Rat 6 is good. I mean, good enough.
Your Jacks
generally.
are already all Rat 7.
That's
Just
true.
saying.
And they're already fucking too good. I just kind of feel like for out of all the choices you have, he gets spoken of in reverence. He gets spoken of as if he's like so ridiculously over the top good. And I feel like for a long time he was. But where the game is gone,
Killbox.
he doesn't. Well, another thing is he doesn't bring enough anymore. Plus one.
I see where you're coming from.
I don't think he's bad. It's like you just said about the Harbinger. I don't think he's bad. I feel like he doesn't bring enough anymore.
I respect Sevi 1 a lot, but I do not only because of Iaminoth. I think Iaminoth is 30% of his toolkit. The other things he does are why I like him.
Defender's Ward's awesome.
Defender's Ward is a lot of why I like him. You're combining Defender's Ward with offensive output, and not enough Menoth casters have an offensive buff.
Ashes to Ashes, it's amazing.
It is really amazing.
I saw it just the other day. But the thing is, it's like, do I want him or do I want the other casters? And I feel like whenever I put him on the table, he leaves something to be desired. That's every time I've played him. And I do well with him. I like him, but I feel like he needs to give me more for me to say that he's amazing.
So you do well with him, but you wish he was better. All right.
Yes. Yeah, because I just want to steamroll everything.
Okay, so we got to keep moving. Going to the next is the most underrated caster in Menoth. I had 2 down here. First and foremost for me was Krios 1. I think Krios 1 is the strongest caster in the faction.
I agree. He's Lamentation on a stick. Somebody can actually walk.
Lamentation is such an afterthought to me.
No, Lamentation is so cool.
It is good, but
I love it. I look like so many people you can bully across the table with it.
I do. He has Purification as an option, but it is very hard for him to actually choose to cast it. But when he does, it's important. The feat is huge. It keeps so many.
Krios 1's undervalued?
Yes. I can't remember the last time I saw him in a tournament.
But I don't think anybody says he's bad.
I don't think he's bad. I think he's easily top 3 casters, not even close, and I would argue that he's the best.
I think he's going with the same way I did with Severius. Whereas I said Severius was overrated, he's saying Krios is underrated. Whereas they're both considered to be right there.
Yeah, they're both considered pretty much middle tier Menoth casters. I think he's easily top tier.
Who considers him middle tier?
He never gets played.
Shh. Who plays him?
He doesn't get played.
When's the last time you saw Krios 1 on
plays Menoth.
I've been to the game store the last month, and there's been 3 Menoth players there every fucking week.
That's at Warmachine weekend. Somebody played Menoth there, I think.
Yeah, Brandon Kading played Menoth. You're right.
I'm just saying, like, they may not have a huge chunk of everything, but I mean, they do have a standing out there. I mean,
you might say it's roughly like 1 in 12 or less people.
Well, and 66% of the people recording this currently are playing Menoth. I'm just saying, it's like, I'm not saying that it's a huge scale or anything, but I mean, that's at least 2 people are playing him.
And you guys both think Krios is amazing, so that's 100% of this podcast
that not
rates
true.
him high.
Where do you rate him?
I think he's probably the best caster in Menoth.
Okay, so we're all here like-minded.
We're all joined at
But I think we're a far outlier from the common meta. That is Menoth.
I can agree with that.
Because I can't remember the last time I saw him in a 2-list pairing. And I run tournaments. Like, I cannot remember the last time I saw him on table that wasn't a newer player that joined the game in the last 4 months. Like, you see him in the Battle Box games, and everyone graduates out of him into either Sevi, Fior, or Harbinger, and then just never goes back.
And they want to play with the more fun tools.
Right.
Shiny, fancy tools.
But, okay, no, I can remember the last time, actually. I saw John Damaris play him in Iron Gauntlet Warmachine weekend 2 years ago. That's the last time I saw
John
him.
Damaris would probably also tell you he thinks he's the best caster in Menoth.
I hope he agrees with me because I think we're both right. I don't see how he doesn't get more play.
I drank the Kool-Aid. Actually, I got that metal Krios so I can get them all played together.
You bought that metal Krios.
I'm telling you, I drank the Kool-Aid. I did. I want to put it out there. I feel like if I go back to when I first was playing Menoth, and I used him all the time to abuse Dan Speaks, who played Kador, and just lost every single game.
No, it's so crippling to Kador. It's not.
He couldn't do anything. It was the funniest thing ever. But
I love how his feat is assumed to be pop and drop, and it's so dual purpose.
You do all of it.
There's so many things you can do with it. All right, so we clearly all agree here. I also, as my secondary, which I wanted to say, but I thought Krios deserved the speaking time, I thought Raza was underrated.
Shut up.
I really do. And that's because people assume that he is either worst or second worst in the faction. I think he's sub-middle tier.
Vindictus, underrated.
Vindictus is underrated.
Vindictus 2015. I'll tell you, the guy's
he's got like one of two real stat lines in
yeah.
for a caster in Minoth.
Absolutely.
And he has Defender's Ward.
I remember, I know this isn't the common perception, but I asked someone why they didn't play Vindictus, and he said that he was too squishy. And he was playing Harbinger in a game. I was like, you realize you're getting...
me right now?
No,
Okay.
This is the other person that I was talking to the other day.
Right.
But he's like, +1 defense over Harbinger, which he doesn't have awe, so that kind of washes. He's like -2 or 3 armor over Harbinger. He has Defender's Ward. He has Sack Pawn.
+2 armor over her.
Isn't he a 17? No, he's a 16.
He's a 15, 16.
So he's +1 defense, +2 armor, which is better than awe. And then he also has Defender's Ward on top of that. And he has Sack Pawn.
He only has 6 focus.
Yeah, he only has 6 focus. That's why. And guess what? He's a small base and doesn't do damage to himself. I was like, what are you talking about? And his feat isn't as good as Harbinger's, but it's vaguely comparable.
When I first started talking, that was one of the first conversations we had about anything in this game, was how much I wanted Vindictus to be good. And I bought him, and I was so disappointed in him. And I think I was disappointed in him because I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And I think that playing a little bit more of it now, I think I want to play his fucking tier list. I don't even care if it's good or not. I just want to do it because it'll look good on the table. But I think that he brings so many things to the table. So many things.
Okay.
True Path, Weapon Masters, next.
All right, so moving on. We've got Kador. This one I had a lot of trouble with. I really didn't know what to put here because I thought Kador was mostly properly judged. Except for one thing, and that is Irusk 2 is underrated.
I think you're saying that right at a time when people are starting to think he's freaking
right now, because Bradigus has come out, people are like, oh my god, this is the Bradigus answer. He's not a Bradigus answer. He's an amazing caster that's underplayed.
A month ago, I would probably have said him too.
So the caster I had overrated was Sorsha 1, and that's just because I literally couldn't think of anyone else. I think she is amazing, and she's probably the best caster in the faction. But she is considered by far and away the best caster in the faction. I think she's just number 1.
I think Vlad 3 is underrated.
Did you say
That's
Sorsha
fair.
1 is considered the best caster in the faction?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Who do you think
is overrated?
Karchev is overrated because there's too many people that don't know how to play him that think they do.
I'm not going to speak about the entirety of everybody who plays high-end Kador out there. I'm not going to, but if I meet one more person that can't pull Butcher 3's dick out of their mouth, I won't know what to think.
I think that opinion has mostly died down, which is why I didn't put Butcher 3.
Really? Maybe I just haven't played enough people with it, but literally everybody I know who has ever seen, heard of, touched, considered Warmachine the Marvel character can't stop sucking this character. It's like I cannot stand Butcher 3's talk anymore. Yes, he's strong. He is. You know, Parker and I were talking about this just the other day when I lost against Butcher 3. A lot of Butcher 3 is the fact that we are afraid of him. So we put models on the table, and then he wins because you don't want to go
affects your
fight.
play. Yeah, he affects your mental state in the game.
I'm not going to talk about what he puts on the table, but I'll talk about the psychology of a person playing against them. Really? I mean, he's just another model. I mean, he's good. He brings things to the table. What's more overrated than somebody who, when you put him on the table, your opponent immediately plays differently because of what you put on the table?
Yeah.
Not even caring what the model does. What's Butcher 3? Oh my god! That's the definition of overrated.
Like, he terrifies you into forgetting to activate your Eris models and things like that.
He does do that. Shut up. Though he does win games, so maybe
he does
rated and not under or overrated.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know that I have any more.
Karchev underrated.
Karchev underrated. He said Karchev's overrated.
Really?
I think there's two schools of thought on Karchev. One is that he's the worst caster in faction, and two, that he is just one thing away from being really good.
I don't know. I
think he's close to the worst thing in the faction, and he is talked up like he's not.
Well, the thing is,
that he is one thing away, and I don't know that he is.
He has such polarizing matchups. Like, even how he is now, he can be extremely dominant in games, but it's probably 20 to 30% of your matchups. And in Khador, you can't...
100% of the matchups where you can pay the cans to tow a conquest.
Yeah.
That's not that big. I didn't even do it the last time we did Food Machine.
The thing that would bother me is I feel like, okay, if you have newer players that really want to play Jack-heavy Khador and they buy card shift and they try and do that, they don't know how to utilize them correctly. But then you see the other end of players, the players who know how to play the faction, and they use them correctly, and you can get a ton of work out of it.
He's definitely a caster.
He can get a lot of work done, but I've seen somebody playing that I think is pretty good at him, and it's just not scary.
It's really not.
You sure it's not just him?
I've changed people's religion with Karchev. It happened.
Wow.
Hey, I didn't say it, he did. And then I repeated it.
Hey, I've seen you do great things with Karchev, but I also seen Dan Speaks do great things with Karchev.
That's fair.
And I think Karchev is a solid caster that...
I think...
There's a break line there, and I think that some people, they aren't intimidated by it because it realistically doesn't have the massive tools that the top-end casters do.
It's not even the tools, it's literally the matchups. There's so many matchups where it's not even your opponent, it's the army. I can't beat his army. There's just nothing I can do. Unless he is the dumbest player.
The problem is he has to... All you have to do is not give him the assassination, which in the end is not that hard to do. And then what's he do?
It's really just positioning. If your opponent is in the top 40% of players on positioning of models, half your game is gone. I'm not even saying about preventing the assassination. It's grouping your models in a way that I can't get free kills. If I can't pick off your alpha heavy for free, then my game is going down dramatically. If I can't assassinate you, another dramatic drop in power level. And it gets to the point where I've got a bunch of dumb heavies because I'm playing a shitty faction to do this. Like, where Mort Neighbor doesn't have that tax.
You've seen me play the game. I'm in the bottom 30% of positioning of models.
Exactly. That's why we need to play some games. I'll play Karchev. It'll be fine.
We did play Karchev.
I know.
High Reclaimer.
I need to quit letting you win.
Yes.
Anyway.
Next faction.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I think Karchev could be good, but he suffers more from matchups than anything else.
Is it Crick's time?
It is Crick's time.
It's Crick's time.
The most overrated. This is for Spence mostly. Terminus.
I hate you. How is Terminus overrated?
I think for a long time Terminus had a boogeyman like Butcher 3 did. He had the boogeyman approach of, oh my god, it's Terminus, and he just absolutely doesn't.
It was even worse than
yeah, they figured out it was way worse.
He goes 11 inches, add an inch for Death Ride. Okay, 12 inches, and add 3 inches for Malin Corbeau. I think we can all account for 15 inches and stay 18 inches away.
I love when Max talks about Chris because he says it in such a way that I don't know.
You just assume they're terrible.
Every time I see Cricks do anything at all, like I'm always just mystified by like, I don't care what that model does, but if it attacks one of mine, it dies. All their models just have like death touch on my models. That's what I assume that faction does.
I assume if it attacks me, I die.
When he talks about what they do, I'm like, I don't know how it does that, but it does what? How does it? Wait, which one is that? I have to identify these models.
Speed 6, charges 9, reaches 11. Death Ride is a 1-inch move for an undead model that's done by Derek Wraith. Madeline Corbeau.
I'm following you.
15 inches.
I'm still... But how do you ever kill him? How do you kill Terminus?
You can't.
How do you kill anybody that's defense 14, armor 24?
Just kill him.
Like the Butcher.
Exactly.
I really wanted Butcher 1 to be on my underrated list, but
And
he's
also,
not really underrated.
Also, just so you know, it's not shoot him with Eris.
Yeah, it's true. Don't shoot him with Eris. Unless you have Krios and you've, like, killed everything. I don't know.
Why don't you shoot him with Eris?
He has sack pawn.
I think you should have known this by now.
Believe it or not, actually, the Terminus game, I had Eris. I really did. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to kill him so much.
God
he has all that focus. Doesn't matter. Oh, it's alright, I got Eris. The first time I'll ever be able to actually use Eris. This is going to be great. This is my noobness. I'm like, oh yeah. And then he charged Eris with Erebus, or whatever the fuck that stupid cheat was, and killed her. And I was like, oh, damn.
How did that happen?
I know. That's another thing. But like the whole time I'm like, oh shit, I guess, well, he killed her, so I guess I can't do that. This is the first moment I've actually considered the fact he would have just sack pawned that shot. I hadn't even considered that at all.
Spence, I don't even understand how you can be this bad.
You've seen me play the game. I'm not nearly
But I don't understand how.
I don't...
It's like you're doing it on purpose.
I own dice.
All right. Does anyone disagree with that or have other opinions?
I have
I disagree with what?
Overrated caster.
I don't think Turner's overrated.
You think he's where he should be?
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion on an overrated caster? I think doing your own faction is the hardest part.
It is.
Because your opinion is the opinion in your head.
Scar 2. That's what I wrote down, but I don't know.
Overrated? She is unplayable trash, so.
Absolutely, that's what I was going with.
Can I say Gorshade 3 just to incite an argument?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he might be slightly overrated, but that's just because he's the new hotness and he's everywhere. I don't think the opinion is that he's the greatest thing ever, but he is really strong. But everyone's playing him right now, so that's why I would say his opinion might be a little high.
Well, his opinion's high because he's probably the best assassin in Crix.
I play Severius 1, I don't care.
Okay.
The most overrated caster. And,
yes. Yes. I follow the meta.
Next, I have as the most underrated caster, Denegra 1. I think she is the best caster in Crix.
I think every time we talk about her, we talk about how stupidly overpowered
and it's
she
probably
is.
just because she has such a negative play experience attached to her card that it's just not fun to play against, that it frustrates me so much. But I feel like she is the strongest caster in Crix, and if anything, I don't want to play against that caster. I'd rather play against anything else Crix has, and that might be part of my impression.
Do you know why they put her in the battle box?
Because they hate players.
Well, no, because they want players to really think that she's trash, and they want to get bored playing her, so they want to play with all these new hotness toys.
That's true. It's like the Trios 1 effect. No one wants to play this caster.
If any player that has been playing for more than a week and a half picks up Denny 1, they immediately win all games. Like, I think that they just send trophies to your house.
It's like you saw Parker. Parker got to top 4 of the last chance qualifier, and he'd been playing Crix for a week. And he played Denny 1 in his pair. And the only reason he didn't make top 2 was because he died to the most ridiculous long shot assassination I've seen on a table actually come happen. Because he got shot to death by 3 Winter Guard that needed 13s to hit, and were dice off 7 on damage. I was like, are you serious?
The thing is, like, I can see Parker's face when that happens, like, cause he
didn't even look mad.
Like, it's like Parker, like, well, goddamn.
Well, Parker usually gets tilted when he gets diced. He wasn't mad. He's like, Brandon, look at this. I was like, this is why? What happened? I was like, I thought you were playing a game. I was like, no, it's over. I was like, what?
Look at this. It's magical.
So, Max, tell us why we're wrong about Denegra 1.
He shook his head.
She's good, but she's not underrated.
Where do they rate her? Because I don't pay attention to anything Crix players say.
Pretty much first, second, somewhere around there.
Really?
Then why doesn't she get played
How is
nearly
their
as much?
scale? Tell me, like, who do they like? I mean,
don't give me that look.
How do they talk about their people? I've never gone to the Crix
Because
forums.
people love things like Montenegro.
I don't think she can be considered most powerful caster in the faction when she's outplayed by multiple other casters. Gorshade 3 alone gets way more play than she does.
It's new.
It hasn't been new for like 3 months. He's been out for a while.
Nobody ever played Wrath of Ages because he was always bad. Gorshade 3 has a place.
That's true. I do believe he has a place. But you can't be good and not have a place. I don't think you can be the best of something and not have a place in the faction.
She does have a place.
I don't see that much. I don't see her played that often.
And then other people cry, and then you can't play her anymore, so then you never play her.
I do see that a lot, actually. Like, more than once I've seen somebody put Denny down on the table, and your opponent just be demoralized. I mean, it's worse so than I've seen any ass beating in this game. When you play against Denny, and she just completely rocks your whole army, you're like, I don't know. And you're thinking to yourself, it's like, what else could I have done? Like, could I have done anything? It feels completely one-sided when you're on the... So, if you're the person...
Is also in a really weird place currently.
I agree with that.
I mean, you gotta feel like an asshole sometimes if you're pushing people out of the game because of... And it's... I hate to blame it on the caster. I hate to blame it on players, but I mean, I've seen that combination happen a lot of times where some people will put Denny down. And these are nice people who people will enjoy playing games against. And you play a game against that person with Denny 1, and now suddenly the game is less fun. I'm not saying don't play her.
Looking for ways to play Crix and win with Crix that aren't the normal way, which is why that Lich 2 doesn't get played, Negra 1 doesn't get played. That's why they're not being played. They're looking for a new way to play the army because they're I don't think it's that big of an argument to say that they're probably the most teched against army.
I would absolutely agree with that.
And they're looking for a different way to play it.
They're looking for a way to...
That's exactly why those casters are not played currently.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably valid. if I played Crix, I'm going to play Denny 1 all day long, every day, against everybody, no matter what. Because she's incredible. I love her so much. And I'm an asshole.
I hate you.
Who doesn't want to have to know how to play the game?
Okay, so I think we've talked about Crix now. Moving on to Retribution. I'm kind of guessing on these, so feel free to yell at me.
I know.
Most overrated caster, I have Assyria. I think...
I kind of wanted to go there, but I didn't.
I don't see how she's bad with her toolkit. But
it literally is that problem where she just cannot do anything.
She runs out of steam so hard late game.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I couldn't bring myself to say a caster that gives signs of importance to her army and an out for stealth.
At the time she came out, it was like literally like game-breaking rumors.
I don't think anybody thinks she's the best because she's not.
No, I don't think anyone thinks she's the best.
I don't even know who is the best in Retribution.
I would say Ron.
Well,
you can say he is, but...
Well, I've heard that from
you could also say he's the most underplayed caster in Retribution.
I see him played a lot.
From what I hear, and from what I hear from a ton of Retribution...
Because you ran into a single tournament where you played 3 Retribution players in a row doesn't mean you've really seen him played a lot.
He's been in all but one ret pairing I've ever seen.
Wasn't it Assyria in like every single one of those?
It was Assyria and Ron in 2 of them, and the other one was Assyria Ossian.
So Assyria, right there.
No, I think she's overrated. She was not that hard to beat.
Won, didn't she?
I lost 2 of those games. But the reason I lost was because her army was stealth, not because she was a good caster.
It's Ret. I mean, I know it's a weird thing to say, but like
I mean, they're not a real faction. I mean, they're a sub-faction.
They are a sub-faction. They can call themselves whatever they want, but I'm sorry, their faction suffers from this huge weakness of not having anything. And whatever they have being so pigeonholed and doing exactly that. And the one thing they stand out that they do that's not normal for the faction is what Ron does. And that's what I hear every time I hear anybody talk.
I think Ron just has too many options to not be an extremely powerful caster.
So I want her to be better, but I feel like she's light what a lot of other casters do.
I think she falls into the archetype of Ron as she's just a huge army force multiplier. Like, she makes your army straight better, where Ron does that, and he is himself a workhorse.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I don't understand how she can't be good, because I look at her card and I'm like, this caster is extremely powerful.
She is good.
And then
she should win every gun battle game there is.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking
because an arcable spell that says that you can't shoot, pretty good.
It's pretty good.
We were talking about this earlier, actually, and you mentioned about the stats on Ret Jax. I still think it goes back to, can you look at any of the pieces of a Ret army and say that it's much? I mean, because every time I look at Ret models now, and this is a turnabout for me, but every time I look at Ret models now, I want to believe that that's really good and that you could get a lot of work out of this. You said earlier it's like they're a really good faction to dojo with, but you put her down on the table, and what else are you putting down that they don't already take with other people? I mean, it's just, is it enough? I mean, does she have, because even if she's really good, does she have enough in her faction to really turn on, if she's going to turn it all on? I mean, is that the problem with any of their cast?
I feel like she has the tools. I mean, maybe
For her to be really good, she would need a special rule on the noisy cricket to be able to ancillary attack that.
Well, you want to
because she can't afford to... I don't think her army can afford to spend the 20 points on the Hyperion.
I think it's a great synergy, but it's too many points.
A 10-inch gun is the significant other negative to it, because then it's in danger.
Yeah. You know, I think I hear a lot from a lot of Ret players, and I don't know if this is a big thing for their faction, but I hear it brought up consistently in comparison to a lot of other things, and that's Snipe Feet Go.
I think Raven...
Is that overrated?
No. I think she might be one of the better casters. I think I picked Ossian was their underrated caster, because I just don't... I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to what people are playing Retribution-wise nationally.
One, there's less casters in the faction overall, so it's hard to see a caster not often enough when there's only like 8. Like, it's easy to see the majority of them and then have the other 3 or 4 be annexed to your unplayable zone. That's easy to happen in a small caster faction. I mean, look at Minions. If you're not playing Rask and something, you're dumb, apparently. So,
yeah.
I mean... It just, that's the way it works. Like, there's a clear winner, and then you play the second best.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
So, I mean, your options are limited, and their factions' options are limited because they're a newer faction. I think they might struggle from the over-specialized units, and they don't have... I don't feel they really have a main workhorse unit. Like, a lot of people fall to the Mage Hunters for that, but that's not what they're there for. Yeah. They don't have, like, a Winter Guard infantry unit where it's like, this unit is good against 90% of the game, and
you can put them in any list.
They're faction-defining, other than the Mage Hunters. They could probably benefit from having a medium-based beef unit as well. Like, if they had a true jam unit where they could just shove it into you, like Warders,
I don't know if they'll ever get a medium base unit.
I don't know that they will either.
Fluff.
Right.
Unless it's like a medium base unit of Mega Man type guys or something.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool, but I do agree. I don't think they're going to get it anytime soon, but I think that might be what they're missing. They're missing an anchor unit that does work.
Just like, I know you're going to say otherwise, but Crix will never get a medium base unit either.
They have a medium base unit.
No, they don't.
They have the Porch Monkeys. What? What?
That?
That's what everybody calls.
Who's that?
The Black Ogren boarding party. The 6-point unit that has...
It's not in the game.
What?
It's not in the game.
It's 40 points for 6... Or 40 wounds for 6 points.
Hearing that. Second anybody stacks up and actually puts them on the table and does things with them, I'll give a fuck. Until then, it's like I
don't think they see enough... Well, mainly a lot of people don't want to spend the money to experiment with it, but...
Sack up, spend money on models. I mean, everybody, do it. Just
well, I mean, if you're ever going to play as a faction purist, you can play this game for more than 2 years, you're going to end up owning everything in your fucking faction. So, I don't know, I think a medium-based unit would help Red. I don't know that they'll get it, or I don't think they should get it, but I think that would be really what they're missing. Or, like Khador, I think they're really missing a multi-purpose unit. Like if
Jack?
No, I don't think they're missing a Light Jack. I mean, they could get Light Jack, and it could help them.
Scrapjack.
Yeah. But if they had basically Nis Hunters as an option in every list, it would dramatically help the faction. I'm not... even if you take Nis Hunter away, like, I don't care that they are Nis Hunters. I want a ranged and melee unit. And there literally isn't any other than the Assault Commandos, which are MatRat 5.
Okay.
It's like, I need something that can be multi-purpose. If you're going to give me the Combined Arms list, and none of my units are Combined Arms.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask that.
Retribution has that.
Right, they do have that. But they're missing out on, like, the Iron Fang Pikeman side, I feel like. They have Halberdiers, which are good, but they do a different role than the Iron Fangs do. The Iron Fangs there are really just meant to do a little bit of attrition work and then just stand in one place for a long period of time. Where I feel like Halberdiers are really there to get to a range unit and engage it and then beat it.
I don't feel like any part of Retribution can stand on its own. And I know it's a faction that's supposed to synergize like that, but, okay, Iron Fang Pikemen can stand on their own. They can't. You can put them on a table. You can take them as a unit, put them on the table, and do things with them, no matter what your caster does, no matter what anybody else in the faction does. They can. Temple Flame Guard, they can do the same thing. Even if you don't like them, I've never not gotten work out of Temple Flame Guard on the table. Mm-hmm. They can all do their own thing. That's fine. I don't feel like anything in Ret feels that way. I don't feel like anything in Ret feels like you can just set it on the table and get a ton of work out of them.
Everything's meant to combo off of something else. Yeah. Mage Hunter Assassins are probably the closest thing to that, but it's a solo. That's kind of its purpose.
It's such a good solo.
All right. I think we talked about Red enough because they're not really a faction. So, most underrated.
Lots of damage.
Max said Osian. I said Raven or Osian. I actually put both down. I think either one is both solid. I think they see enough play, but I just think Raven really has fallen out of favor in the meta. I haven't seen Raven in a long time. I see Osian a fair amount.
It's because she has the negative that she can deal with the horde of infantry, but what does she do against heavy armor?
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. There's been a lot of an upswing of armor, so. Moving on to Convergence of Cirrus. Most overrated caster.
I skipped this faction.
That's fair.
Is this a faction?
It is a faction.
They have 3 casters. Oh, here.
5 casters.
I'm going to throw this out there for everybody playing Convergence, okay?
Underrated Axis, overrated.
Okay. Everybody
I actually said overrated Mother, underrated Axis. I totally agree.
Everybody who is playing this faction right now, if you are new to the faction, put Axis away.
What?
Stop it.
That's true.
Okay? He seems like...
It's like the Scar 1 Horde. I mean, it's not necessarily learning the faction. You're playing a skew. You're not learning anything. You're just putting...
Once you learn the faction, pick your Axis back up, take some theory, just fucking go win shit with these really awesome... If you're new to the faction, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just wasting your money. You're investing all this money in these models that are not going to do anything while you're trying to deliver a caster who's going to spend every bit of focus to fail at an assassination.
If you want to learn the faction, play Lucant, Mother, or maybe Syntherian. Syntharian is just his own thing, really.
And it's awesome.
At least he uses convergence models, where
awesome.
Axis uses basically not convergence models. He's like, hey, look, I have Enigma Foundries, and then 56 points of other things.
It's just so annoying. And that's so many newer convergence players that sit down and across the table, they're all like, oh, look at this. And they hold up their Axis model, and they're really happy they got him. And they're like, he does this one. I don't care what he does. I've seen everything he does on the table, and he's going to be a somewhat of a beat stick. That doesn't matter. Put your caster out there. He's going to die. You're going to fail. You're wasting your faction. Go play something else. Pick him up later.
Okay. So moving on, because they're not really a faction,
Oh.
to another not faction, but is becoming more of a faction.
Minions?
Mercenaries.
Oh.
We're still on Warmachine, dude. Come on.
I don't know. I said Fiona was underrated, but that's because I really just couldn't.
I think Fiona is actually starting to get a little bit more of a place in the meta, but I still think she's not going to see play for a long time. As overrated, I put down Exelon Thexus just because.
I wanted to, but I think he's too new.
Yeah.
To say
Who rates
that.
him?
I put Connie B, but that's just because.
I think he's seen a lot of play lately, mostly.
I think she's rated poorly as well.
Yeah, I think Constance Plays is stronger than a lot of people think she is, but
She was hard to play under time turns. But who the hell is playing Cephalix? Like, who?
I mean, are you talking about the national meta?
Like, anybody. Like,
Count the percentage of Mercs players first,
Okay.
and then count the percentage of them that are playing Texas. It's probably like 30%.
Are you serious?
Probably.
I don't think I've seen one person who owns the model.
Okay, leave Missouri sometime,
That's never gonna
and
happen.
don't go to like Des Moines and then write down your list wrong.
I'm just okay.
I don't know why he's actually overplayed or overperceived to be strong. I think what he does is strong, but he has some big weaknesses like magical attacks, like spells that are targetable on his important pieces are crippling.
I don't know if it's really underrated, but I want to see it more. As I want someone to man up and play Shay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that my Shay army is painted, you really want to say that?
Yes, I want to see.
Okay.
Well, no, okay. He's restrictive as fuck. Like, he's one of the people who you can hardly.
If you play him in tier, I agree,
That's-
but
I mean,
you're
just-
gonna play him in tier.
He's awesome.
His tier is actually a lot more versatile than a lot of people think.
I want to see him out there. I think
Okay.
he's incredible.
Okay. We'll move on now. Most underrated is I put Bart because I haven't really heard anything about him in a while, but I think he still presents a really strong skew that is really effective in the current meta.
I'm going to say McBain.
You think he's underrated?
Yes.
Where do you think he's rated on 1 to like 9?
14.
I definitely put him up pretty high. McBain's awesome.
Why?
Because, okay, he can do a lot by himself. Like, you run your mercenary army with all your parts of it doing their own job, okay? Now, is he helping out any of it?
Okay, when you say that, what parts of your army that aren't solos are doing their job without
yes.
anything from him?
How about this?
Without anything from him? They're good.
I've seen this do plenty of work in all kinds of lists.
Yeah, but how many of them were against a player that wasn't playing Mercs?
I don't know. I just have seen this do plenty of work, so you can put that on the table. He can make the Galleon do all kinds of great things.
He's good with the Galleon, I absolutely admit that.
He's solid, and you can deliver. And really, you can deliver solos where you want him to be. It's McBain. He's fun to play with. And you can do a lot with him, and it's not like he has tools. He really does have tools that you can't be denied in a lot of matchups.
Unless you have Purification.
That's true, unless you have Purification. So if you're playing against Mad Elf, don't draw McBain.
Or Circle, or Trolls.
Or those factions.
Or those factions. Alright. So that's what we think about Mercs. Moving on, Trollbloods. Most overrated caster.
Doom Shaper 1. Get him out of here.
Spence.
No, I'm just kidding. That's kind of want to play against him.
E-Madrick.
Interesting. I said Doomshaper 1 in earnest. I really think he's the most overrated right now.
Really?
I think the troll bench is way too deep for people
I
to
put
be blinded by him. You think Jarl's overrated?
That's what I put. I don't think
You're also currently wearing a-
casters are bad.
I actually agree. I sit down and I build troll lists, and it's totally different than when I'm building Meanoff lists. Because when I'm building Meanoff lists, like, how can I like build something that will be effective? Trolls, I'm like, oh my god, this would be so awesome. Like, I just want to put everything I own on the table all the time. It's
I feel
just
that way when I'm building my off list, though.
okay.
I do, honestly.
Fair.
When I look, okay, helping any of my friends who've started playing Trolls, when I help them build their list, I go, Trolls, like, I don't care, just pick anything you want, doesn't matter.
Well, that's just because all their stuff's good.
You just put it on the table and shit's gonna happen, it doesn't matter.
Right.
When I play Model, I'm like, I cannot wait to put this on the table.
Ryan told me that he needs to buy Sluggers and Skinners.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why? And he's like, well, that way I'll own everything. I was like, so you bought all the good stuff.
I don't like E-Matter because I feel like he has the survivability shtick, which he's going to use, but you're going to see it coming.
You think he's overrated?
Yeah.
Where do you think he's rated? From 1 to 4?
Keep asking that weird question.
1 to 12, where would you put him, 1 being the best?
Like, are you saying where I think he is?
Where you think he is and where you think he's perceived.
Okay, I think people perceive him in top 3, top 5, somewhere around in there. I think they see him really in top.
I would definitely say that he's perceived to be in the top
Now,
5.
I personally feel like he's
Mid-tier, 6 to 8, somewhere in there.
I wouldn't want to put him that low. I mean, he's.
So you won't put him below 5, above 6 to 8?
I'll give him a 6.5.
Okay.
I mean, he is solid. He is good.
You think he's a couple notches too high?
I do think he is. I think that he's perceived to be this Omega unkillable, throw him at your enemy and just keep rolling.
I don't think he's unkillable. I think with proper positioning, he is unkillable.
Absolutely.
Which is true with a lot of casters.
Models,
Yeah.
I feel like he gets this extra thought that he's unkillable because of, his stupid rule. Whatever it's called.
Grim Salvation?
Yeah, because of Grim Salvation.
Sorry, I thought you were just pointing at me. I was like, what's going on?
Because of stupid rule point. No, I feel like he gets perceived as that, whereas, I mean, many models in the game have a defensive tech that you have to get around, and he just seems so unkillable. I mean, yeah, it's...
Well, he also just has a really good stat line.
He does. Vindictus does too. I mean, I'm not putting them on par, by the way, so before everybody comments and says, oh my god, he said Vindictus is as good as E-Matter. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying. So you're saying that Madrak with a 4 camp next to 4 models behind a wall is not safe. That's what you're saying. I mean... Literally is not safe.
You better be in your deployment zone. I mean, otherwise I'm charging under true pathing to kill you.
Okay.
Max, are coming.
Do you have an opinion on overrated other than you think Jarl?
No, not really. I don't really think Jarl.
Did you feel any stood out as overrated?
No.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I think Doomsheeper is only slightly overrated. I think people need to get off the Runes of War crack and understand how to actually play the game other than that before they try Runes of War all day.
Runes of War is really good. I feel like it's also fallen away. Some people are learning to play against it.
True.
Yeah.
For underrated, I have 3 casters because Trolls have so many casters.
Just name all of them.
Madrak 1.
Say Calandra.
No.
Just say Calandra.
Borka 1. And Gristle 1.
Shut up.
I'm serious.
Shut up.
I don't see those 3 casters on the table. I do think Doomshaper... I actually just played Doomshaper 2 yesterday, and it was a blast.
I'll say Calandra because this has been coming out. I've heard...
Now, when you say Calandra, are you saying the tier or just Calandra?
I think that's coming about really hard right now. I think a lot of people are, quote-unquote, discovering or rediscovering it.
I've played against the tier once, and I was very happy I was playing the list I was playing. And that video is actually online.
I think people just need to... I mean, that it's underrated for the next month. And the second it becomes suddenly huge, it's going to overshadow a lot of things.
I don't think it will just because of the nature of Trolls. Trolls has forever been... Before Runes of War specifically was, we play what we want, because Trolls are the troll faction. And then once Runes came out, it was Runes plus what? And it was commonly like Grim or Grim 2 or...
I think people are going to have a lot of fun.
Possibly Calandra. No, I think she'll see more play, but I don't think she'll become a dominant staple like Runes, even where close to where Runes of War was.
I don't think it'll be a dominant staple at all.
Madrak 2 used to be considered one of the better casters, like, to put in your 2-list pair, and he's completely gone away recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to start coming back because of the current meta. Okay, so that was my opinions. Circle, overrated caster. Spence, go first. Max?
I wasn't prepared.
I'll go ahead and say mine then. I also said Bradigus, and I have a specific reason for saying that.
Okay, what's your reason?
Kruger 1.
Kruger 1 is overrated. Interesting. I think in our local meta, Kruger 1 has a very high perceived value, but I don't know that he does in national basis. But I said Bradigus because I think that he can't possibly be as OP as people think he is.
I think he's running through that butcher intimidation thing where
right.
People are like, how do you beat Bradigus?
No, I think it's going to be a Crix fix, basically, is he's going to be so hated against that every single matchup he sees throughout a tournament is going to have an answer for him. or it might actually be that strong. And I also think that because he has so many options and denial pieces that it always seems like he has an answer to what you're trying to do. Like the choir thing of, I'm going to shoot your army off the board with, battled warjacks. And he's like, all right, well, I'll just, outshoot you with Signar. And he's like, well, you can't because I'm passage. So I'm like, well, you can't be battled and passage and enlivened and no knockdown with the book, no spells with the book, fire attack with the book. Like, you can't do all these options at the same time. And I don't know. Like, they always say, it's like, well, I've got stones so I can triple port to you. It's like, well, I'll charge your stones. Well, stones are behind my guys. Well, you can't triple port. The stones are behind you. Like, that doesn't work. Like, put the models on the table and then tell me what you're going to do.
I feel like, despite having a lot of tools, despite him being able to do a lot of things, on paper, it starts multiplying itself because you're looking at a lot of different things. And just like you just said, it's going to be more on paper. It's going to be more in theory than it's actually going to hit the table. Mm-hmm. And we're probably going to eat our fucking words.
Well, I have no doubt that he's really strong. I've seen him played at a high level already.
He is. He's incredible. I love everything about him. I already told you, I'm buying Circle because I love the idea of World War, in the fluff at least. Like, I love every bit of that. But the problem is, like, I've heard so much about how are we going to deal with him. I won't go on the Menal forums anymore because I got tired of reading about how.
Why no Rancher Bradigus, bro?
What are we going to do? It's like, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to sit down and we're going to play our opponent. Just play your game.
And that's the other thing, is he's going to be one of those hyper complex lists to play, and it's going to be way too easy to make mistakes, at least at the local tournament level. And you're going to see him, and he's going to be annoying to play against, but you're going to be able to beat the person. I mean,
it's flavor of the week. I mean, it's
like Morvana 2. Morvana 2 was literally unbeatable when she first came out, and now she's not even considered the strongest caster in the faction anymore.
No, I mean, if you're going to play Bradigus, do it. Just sack him and do it and be awesome. But the problem is, it's
one list, not even taking a second list. Bradigus all the time.
It's just go fucking play against it. Oh, side note, Vindictus. Play Vindictus against him. It's just awesome.
Okay.
Why not?
Because that way when the stones punch your guys on the feet turn, they take a damage.
Yes. That's why.
That's the only reason.
Because charging everything from a million miles away is fun.
Yeah. Well, if you can't see it, you can't charge it.
Well, if they were able to block line of sight to their entire army all game long, I'm going to applaud them as being the best player in the world. Nothing is inside of that forest.
Okay. So, Max, you said Kruger 1 was the most overrated. Do you have any arguments for that? Or any other points you want to cover on overrated circle casters?
I just don't think he's that good.
Moving on, most underrated caster, and I think this is definitive, absolutely no questions, Kaya 2. She is definitely underrated. I think that...
I don't think she is anymore.
I think she's like...
I like Kaya 2.
Huge.
Really, don't get me wrong. Morvana 1.
Morvana 1's underrated? I would agree with that. I think she is underrated. I think Kaya 2 is more underrated.
I think Morvana 1 went through a huge phase where people thought horrible things.
It's one of those things. Like, that's actually a stronger point to argue, is the Morvana 1, because so many people just go like, oh, she's bad against this, so you can't play her. Like, that's...
I can't play her because purification's in the game. It's becoming more prevalent. It's still like 7 casters, people.
Right.
Well, even then, it's like, I mean...
To be fair, some of those 7 casters are considered to be really strong casters, like Harbinger, Runes of War... Veil 2.
Crix will never have a purification caster. There, you can play
That's
against
true.
Crix.
Yes.
What other factions? Scorn. You can always play it against Scorn. What other factions?
Minions.
Retribution. You can always play it against Retribution. Minions.
Convergence. No, wait. Take that back.
You'll always have one.
I forget that. Signar.
Unless you play ADR, then you won't.
Khador.
She's not bad.
Signar, Khador, Crix, Mercs, Scorn,
Not
Circle.
to mention, there are pairings in other factions that have access to purification
True.
where it's not in the pairing.
Mm-hmm. And that's just those factions.
I don't think she's so crippling you can't play her.
No, and if she's in a matchup where you can't get river upkeeps and you don't have some serious...
You're fucking broken.
Well, if you don't have some serious remove from play or serious upkeep removal, you're in a really bad spot. And she is definitely underrated.
I feel like, especially as...
Because she's considered like one of the dredges of the faction.
Yeah.
Like, she is never brought out. God, she is annoying to play
Her
against.
stat line's fucking terrible.
Doesn't she have Sackpon or something like that, though?
It's like Sackpon Stones or something like that.
Living Warrior model.
Is it living? I thought she could sack to stones.
Look it up. Living Warrior model.
Okay, well, people cheat. That's fine.
Stones are Living Warrior models, right?
No.
I'm pretty confident they count.
Well, the Stonekeeper is, though.
Ooh.
And he can stone farm to go to armor 18.
Living Warrior model sack. Okay. No, I played against her just the other day, actually, and I'll be honest with you, because I see her so little, I had no fucking...
You're like, I guess I'll shoot you.
Well, no,
that didn't work.
Badly, I was playing as the fucking Harbinger. Okay, so Harvey me, and he played fucking Morvana 1. I'm like, and immediately what popped in my head is like, oh, I have a badass Purification caster. He has Morvana 1. Auto win?
And then you got your shit kicked in?
Well, it occurred to me, I have no fucking clue what the hell she does.
I just know that I win this game.
Yeah, it's like, well, and it's my badness as a player and opinionated,
It's not even living, that's why she said.
Yeah, it's just
fucking amazing.
Sackpon's not restricted normally.
So,
it's just faction warrior.
Unless you're Vindictus. So, he's terrible. But when I was playing against her, I was like, fuck, I didn't care what her buffs were on the table.
Right.
And I just forgot to cast Purification once. And he put like 7 things back on the fucking table. Like, what? What is...
And then still had a full stack of Fury, and you're like, huh.
I was like, what the hell's going on? I don't even... And I was half asleep throughout the game. I mean, really, but... Because I didn't know what was going on. I mean, that's... Imagine if I didn't have Purification.
Yeah.
Imagine if I wasn't playing the Harbinger. I mean, and...
You might have lost that game.
I've lost many, many Harbinger games. Matter of fact, I don't think I... Let's see, have I ever won a Harbinger game?
Other than that game. Wait,
Yeah.
Did you win that game?
I did.
Okay.
Long shot assassination.
Long shot assassination against Morvana 1 with Harbinger.
Can I throw it out there? So, okay, guided hand on Avenger.
Avenger?
I got 2 of them on her. But
Okay. First one got it done.
Oh, God, no.
So if he had camped 2, it was impossible to kill her.
Best part. She had already taken 10 damage from the feet. From Harvey's. I love you, Merle. No. He moved up on the feet turn, and I just like, okay, so that's closer, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, I just dropped the dice. He's like, shit, that's like 10. He's like, okay. And we just moved on. And he was like, I probably should have transferred. And I was like,
maybe?
yeah, I think 10 damage to a caster's transfer is what it was second turn. I was like, God. And
Was he playing tell me he had a War Beast's army with regen that he could have just healed all that back with.
He had a Stalker.
Do you have a Feral?
No.
Okay.
It was so great.
I feel like we need like another podcast that is just battle reports with Spence, and he talks about dumb shit that happened in his games this week.
I am completely okay with doing a segment. Horrible
Okay,
shit.
I don't even know where to go from there.
Circle.
Legion. Overrated to me,
Veil 2.
Bethane. Spence.
I'm blanking. Give me a second. Overrated? Oh, Thagrosh 2.
Okay. Alright.
His feat is not that fucking cool.
Eh,
No,
there's a lot of skill involved with his feat, but I believe he is generally overrated, especially by newer players.
Yeah.
They see him and they're like, oh my god, he's so cool, and he's the Shredder Spam army is annoying, but other than that, he's kind of tame.
I got beat by
He does look fun to play, though.
And he looks awesome. He's a great centerpiece.
Max,
What?
do you want to elaborate on your Veil 2 pick?
No.
Okay.
I just picked a caster. Locker faction, I have no idea.
He rolled a d20. He's like, Veil 2.
Fuck the Oculus.
I think Bethane is overrated because, one, her list that she basically has to build, which is her tier, is fairly restrictive. And I don't know why, but I'm just like, every time someone's like, oh my god, Bethane's so strong, I'm like, no. You literally only have to be able to beat Hex Hunters and Hellions. If you can do that, you win. Like, it's not that hard. Yeah. Not to mention, there's several factions that can just shut down spells, basically, whenever they want. And it's just like, whatever.
I think shutting down spells is more rare than you're letting it seem.
Maybe. I do play Butcher 2 and Harbinger and Sevi, so...
Wrong with that. That's great. Bethane is strong, and I feel like Bethane is strong and not seen often enough. Yeah, she's a corner case, and I think some Legion players are aware of how cool it is, but when they can make that sing, that does so much.
But I feel like they're only getting that to actually work properly against some people. Like Parker was saying, this is like a Dark Horse caster.
I agree.
If you don't know how to play against Bethane, you're going to get steamrolled the first time just because you don't understand what's about to happen to you.
Kind of. I mean, I feel like that's if it's used that one way. I feel like if she's using it other ways. I mean, if she's more creative about it, if she's more subversive about it, I feel like she could do a lot more with it. It's a lot of damage from a lot of different directions.
Is she half as good as Ron's Steam Force?
I don't think Ron's Steam Force is anything special.
I don't think it is. I don't think she's as strong as Ron's Steam Force or close to it.
Why do you have to play the Thane in her Steam Force?
She gets some really strong bonuses in team. I think she gets +1 to go first. She gets a point discount, I believe, on Hellions. I mean, going first, Hellions, I think she gets either deployment zone increase or a movement ability on turn 1.
She gets a lot of free charges. I mean, she's going to do a lot of really cool.
And she's taking the same stuff anyway because that's the only thing she helps in her entire army.
With her feet.
And what else does she have?
I don't know. The fact that
that's all Ron does is his feet.
Right, but I would be much more terrified to play against Ron than Bethane.
I have seen enough Legion players aware of what she does, so I'm not quite sure I'd give her underrated. Maybe they've rated her, and they just have decided that she's wanting in comparison to other things, which, I mean, I'm not going to say that's underrated.
No, don't get me wrong. I don't think she's seeing a lot of play or anything. Yeah. I just feel that she's one of the Butcher 2 theme force for a long time around here. It was talked about, but no one actually played it, which is half the reason I bought the models for it. And I feel like she's talked about like she's this really strong caster. At least this is my perception of based on what I've heard from other people. And I don't think she's that good. Like, I played against her once with just a generic Khador list, and it was annoying because I lost Drago to spells, and that usually doesn't happen. But other than that, I wasn't that impressed with what she did. I was like, so every other caster in your faction would basically have done this or better, because I just wasn't impressed. And I think that she's held in much higher regards than she should be.
I could probably see that extrapolating out somewhere. I'd probably not seen her enough to actually judge it accurately. I feel like Thagrosh too. He could be more than he is, but maybe just because of the appeal to newer players, because of the appeal of what he's doing with the Shredder Swarm. I don't know. I feel like if he was, I don't know. I don't feel like he brings enough to the table over the entirety of the game to actually be anything that should hit the table as often as I see him hit the table.
Okay. Well, you see him hit the table more than I do then. I've only seen him a couple times. But
I've seen him probably a third of the Legion games that I've seen.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Okay, I can definitely agree with you then. That's way too much.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of the ones that people talk about. I've never seen Vale 2 at the table. That's my experience with Legion. So
that's when I played against her in Masters, I had absolutely no idea what to do against her because I'd never played against her before against anyone but Cody, and that was a really interesting game.
And I've read it. I've read it a ton of times. I've read everything she's supposed to do.
Seeing moving parts on the table and reading them is completely different. So the most underrated caster I could think of in Legion is, in my opinion, Lilith 1. She seems just unexplored to me. And maybe that's just because I wasn't playing when she was probably more popular, and now that the Veils have become a lot more popular, and the Thagrosh 1 is seeing a lot of play. I don't ever see her played, and I just feel like I should. Despite
having seen Callus do really well at a tournament on a battle report, and I honestly don't even remember which one it was, but you'll know which one it is. Which one am I thinking of? He played against Lich 2.
Okay.
God, it was a big,
I believe you.
It was a big tournament.
It was probably Feast of Blades.
I don't know, it was some huge, and it was a few years back.
He played against Lich 2 and didn't get his ass.
Oh, no, yeah, this is against Keith at the first Iron Gauntlet.
That was it, yes.
Keith played Brandon Kading, and Kading was playing Callus with 3 Rapid Course.
That was it. I saw Callus in that game, and I saw that whole thing play out, and it could just be watching those players play. Mm-hmm. So I'll give them credit for this, because this could probably just be them. Seeing what Callus can do in comparison to what I've seen Legion do in every other game, I was just completely...
It's completely different, yeah.
Like, I would play Legion if I could do that. Like, that pulled me into it. I was like, I love everything he did. It seemed like it was just unassailable. It seemed so strong the whole time. I mean, I want to see more Callus on the table, and I never see Callus. Ever.
It's because you don't see him because they're unplayable trash.
Well, they try and make, like, a ton of Incubi for some fucking reason. Like, I'm going to play him for his feet, even though I don't understand why. It's incredible. I thought that would be awesome to see.
No, I definitely think he deserves more play, too.
The defensive line unyielding's a thing.
Hmm? All right, so...
What thing is it?
It's Shield Wall.
Moving on to the final faction.
I said Vale 1.
Oh. Vale 1 is under...
Max says
I saw you tried to skip me there.
I was there, Max. I knew where you were at. Vale 1 because she's not Vale 2, who is overrated.
I did the same thing with Kane, so...
Is it because of the hat? She has a weird hat.
I wasn't aware she had a head, Alex.
I have the penis mightier for 400.
Anal bum cover.
I'll take the rapist.
That's the therapist.
An album cover.
Anyway, Scorn. I had a hard time picking most overrated because I think Scorn is generally underrated right now.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and completely side with Max on Rasheth being overrated because I'm sorry, I fucking don't see it. I'm an idiot.
He's Fury 8.
Yell
What's
me
the
off.
problem?
Who fucking cares? Fury has never mattered to
No,
Scorn.
he's Fury 8.
Nobody.
And he's so hard to shoot off the table. He has impervious flesh.
Trevor, I know you don't listen to this, but please tell me what I'm missing.
No, it's the theme force. It's not Rasheth.
It's the theme.
If Xerxes 1 had Chain Gang as a theme force, you'd see Xerxes 1.
I get it, but it's out of.
I think he looks fun to play, but it's the army that's fun. It's not him.
He does. Okay, that's probably what it is. And I love so many Scorn casters.
Well, and I hate the fact that his frickin' feed is, requires it to be living, and all these other stupid things, and his armor debuff is model.
Yeah, who the fuck cares about armor debuff? I'm hitting you with Titans. You're dead.
You care about armor debuffs. You putting 2+2 strength and enraging that beast is the same thing as debuffing that unit.
It's awesome. I'm okay with whatever, but I feel like it's like every time I look at him I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with him.
I'm just saying enraging isn't enough.
Like I need to.
I know that because I like playing Makeda 2, and she doesn't always have the hitting power, even with the bronze back, to kill everything she wants.
I respect it. When I look at everything he has, and I see Xerxes 1, I see Morgul 2, I see Makeda, I see all these very big things that they obviously do, and it's me and my idiocy and my lack of experience with it, but what does he do? Big control area.
He kills one of his own guys and arcs a spell through it.
It's true.
Yeah, I want to cast a lot of spells. Breath of Corruption, that's it. I can put a...
His Breath of Corruption.
That's a thing.
I think he has Influence or something like that. Oh, he's Carnivore, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Carnivore.
It'd be better if it was Carnage, but...
He has 10 defense.
He does have 10 defense. He also can't run or charge.
He cannot run or charge.
Well, he has no weapon. He's Matt.
That's true, he can run, but he never will.
He can't charge.
Yeah, he cannot charge.
I don't understand.
He can fuel agonizers really well from really far away.
Okay, so we agree. Max and I agree.
That he has a lot of fury.
Well, he does have a lot of... And I feel like that's...
I actually said a different caster.
Okay, who'd you say?
Mordekar.
Really?
You think he's overrated?
I think he's slightly overrated.
He could be.
I think he's solid. I don't know, I feel like he's trying to do the same thing as Hexeris, and you need to pick one or the other. Because I see...
Hexeris.
2, not 1. Not 1.
Everything?
No.
He does everything.
But I see a lot of Scorn players try to run Mordekar and Hexeris, and I don't know why, because they're trying to do the same thing with both lists, and I'm like, you realize you've given up everything that was your army's advantage.
For neither.
Exactly.
Max, will you agree with me on the fact that we don't give a fuck about Mordekar? Though we have said Rasheth, I want to point out the fact that I do agree Chain Gang is fucking awesome.
It's one of the best tiers in Scorn, if not the game. And
if you're really, really worried about reduced point Titans, play fucking Morgul 1.
It's Morgul 1. No, I love Morgul 1. What I'm saying is like that's so.
I just don't know if he can legitimately run that many Titans. Well, it's not the fury they produce; it's the control area he has to stand in.
Will breakers.
Yeah, until they get sniped out because they realize what's about to happen.
2 turns.
You only need 2 turns. What if they shoot them from more than 5 inches away?
Why are you only
They're
moving 5
behind
inches?
Titans.
Okay.
Why are you only moving 5 inches? Titans are a hell of a lot faster than a Morgul list.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they? No, I'm serious. Do the math for me.
I don't do.
How many Titans do you have, and you're casting Rush on how many of them?
All of them?
Okay, how are you doing that? Unless all of them are gladiators and they're casting on themselves.
Morgul can cast it 3 times.
Okay.
But then he's not a...
Then why are you taking Morgul? You've already said that you should basically take Rasheth at that point.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you should.
You're asking how many times can I, not how many times will I. Do I need to get all my Titans across the board all right now?
Can you actually cast it 3 times?
Yeah.
Because he's a 5. Maltrine gets it 6. Okay.
He does. He's good.
Well, that's fine.
He has the claws.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Poke. I'm going to poke this motherfucker in the ass, and we're going to steal one, and then boom. I got it.
And then they can run out of his control
I
area.
don't know how to play Fury 5 casters, so...
I think it's amazing. I love doing it. I feel like I have to put more thought into it, but whenever I get to do that, I always feel like I'm actually playing my opponent instead of just like, I have my beacon of huge control area, and then everybody just runs out and does shit. I like having somebody who actually has to get in there, and I think about how to keep him alive.
I don't like playing with less than a 14-inch control area.
I play the Harbinger, and I play Morgul 1.
Let's be honest, Morgul 1 really just wishes he was Morgul 2.
That's true.
He wishes he had his model, but that's it.
Morgul 2.
He wishes he had stealth.
As a fan. Yeah, he does. If he had stealth, that would be a completely different
Stealth
game.
base on a caster is huge.
Yeah.
It's definitely not
Anyone
valued.
broken? Okay, so Mordekar and Rashad.
Okay. Moving on to most underrated casters in the faction. I had Xerxes 1 out of tier specifically. I think Fist of Halak is the only time you actually see Xerxes 1, and he has a lot of potential out of tier.
Mac 3.
Most overrated caster in the faction. Spence? Spence is confused. He's like, what's happening now?
Are we going with overrated right now?
No, I was kidding.
So, underrated casters, you're going with Xerxes 1 out of Fist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're going Makeda 3.
She's just fun.
No, I do agree. She looks fun to play.
Underrated casters, I'm going to go with...
I'm very happy that Makeda 3 was allowed to be the field test for Butcher 3. I'm very happy that happened.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what scoring casters are underrated.
So you can't think of a scoring caster that you think is particularly strong and that no one plays?
Well, I don't feel like there are consistent casters. Okay, Mordekar. I almost never see Mordekar played. I see people make cute lists with Mordekar once in a while, but I feel like it's just like you said. They're just trying to do Mordekar.
They're trying to do an infantry sweep list with Mordekar, which is fine. I mean, it works, but...
I don't feel like the vast majority of people feel like Mordekar is rated inappropriately. I feel like everybody knows how strong Hexorus 2 is. I feel like everybody knows Hex 1 is not that good. Everybody knows, Morgul 2 is... Everybody knows where they're listed.
I don't think you can really talk about any caster being good if they have the spell Arcane Reckoning on their card.
This just happened.
Or Awaken Spirit.
This just happened.
Awaken Spirit's pretty legit.
Is it?
How's it not?
How is it amazing?
It's not amazing, but...
It's okay.
But, is Molkarn better if he can do 4 Fury worth of work and then cast his Animus on himself? Yes.
Yeah, it's true. I just think it's kind of niche. Are you putting Molkarn with the caster with Awaken Spirit?
You can.
But would you expect to?
It depends what my second list is.
Could you explain Mac 3 to me? Your
What about
explanation?
Why he thinks?
You pick her? Yeah, well, because I have less experience with her and less knowledge of her than I do any other caster that they have. So, I mean, maybe your thought on it would help. Because I don't know that I see any of their casters as being undervalued.
Do you know how her interactions work?
Yeah.
Or okay.
I want to know his thought on it, why he put her there.
You're putting way too much thought into this.
Okay.
Molkarn kills everything within 1,000 inches of him.
Molkarn. It's just she puts this. She has a laser targeter, and it's her 12-inch control area. And anything in that
It's like that scene from
is
Akira.
a red
like the
dead
laser.
zone.
She drops like a smart bomb, and just everything in your control area dies.
It's incredibly strong.
Except for Zealots.
And she's a super solo.
You know what? Not having played as her, I've actually probably not seen enough Scorn players talk about her, considering what she could potentially be. I can throw her out there as being most underpowered.
Thanks, Scorn player. You really added a lot to our Scorn talk.
No, I'm serious. Okay, Scorn doesn't have that caster that they feel is on that level.
No, I feel the same way about Khador.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have that person that stands out as like, oh my gosh.
They're all pretty much where I think they should be perceived at.
Yeah, I feel like
Except for, I think, Khador has power casters. And
Butcher 3.
Scorn doesn't.
They do. I would agree with that. There
I
are
feel
power
like-
casters in Khador.
Wait, who is our power caster in Scorn?
I said
That's his
Scorn
point.
doesn't have power casters.
There's not an
It's
outlier.
kind of like it's almost like, in my opinion, I guess you can consider Ron a power caster, but the rest, Retribution, in my opinion, doesn't really have power casters, which is the way their faction's designed to work. Their faction's designed to have all these units that are good and can be buffed slightly by their casters, but none of their casters are power casters because you add Denegra on top of their infantry, and it's probably too good.
Mm.
Well, what does that say about a faction, though? I mean, do you think it actually says anything specifically?
It says they're designed to play a different way.
The caster isn't designed to be the workhorse of the faction. Like Signar, the casters, despite the fact that most of them don't do any work themselves, are designed to be the workhorses of the faction because they allow their army to do it. If you take the caster out of a Signar army and just play the armies without casters, Signar is incredibly bad. Gun mages are still cool, but nothing else really does anything. And then where the opposite side, you take it over to an army like Scorn. If you don't cast any spells with your caster and all he does is drop Fury and Leech, you can play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why.
And the Signar player would have like no chance against you, which is why they don't really have the power casters, because... And then you see Haley 2 across from you. It's like Haley 2 versus Resheth.
If Resheth had a freaking +2 speed, there would be no question.
Yeah.
I would love him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. So
Or if he really
just
just had-
makes every beast in his faction average, in my opinion. Because average, in my opinion, is speed 6. Or speed 5 with reach. That's average to me.
He's definitely a quantity over quality caster. He's just going to let you take a bunch of Titans.
Quantity over quality. Ah! Because he's fat.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
More grapes.
Yeah.
Bring me grapes.
Alright, Hedonism Bot.
I love that joke about him. I don't even watch Family Guy. I heard that joke. I thought it was the funniest shit ever. Then I found it was a joke
What?
that they stole from something else. Not
What?
Family Guy. Fucking Futurama.
Futurama.
Oh.
I'm drunk.
How are you drunk?
What?
You drink tea, which isn't even 100% sweet tea.
It's not. I'm just tired. Fucking, what was the hedonism bot thing? Oh, he apologizes for nothing. I love the Resheth jokes.
I'm really confused now. I don't know what's going
When
on.
I first heard about... Okay, shut up.
I really have no idea.
About Resheth, everything was like, apologize for nothing. Like, that was the joke about it.
Oh,
and the joke
okay.
is hedonism bot apologize.
I thought the joke was quantity over quality, and I was like, I'm really just lost here.
Oh, and like that joke came from hedonism bot. I didn't know where hedonism bot came from. So I heard all the apologize for nothing, and I thought just that being Resheth was hilarious. And then I found out that was related to something else and something else. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess the joke came from something. I didn't get where it came from.
Can we stop talking about this now?
Can we talk more about Resheth?
Okay.
Okay.
I feel like Khador is a lot in the way of the same as Signar, where they have casters that might not necessarily do work. No, not as same as Signar.
Oh.
I feel like their casters are very important to their faction.
Yeah,
And
they're
they-
not the same in any way because Khador's an infantry faction and Scorn is definitely a beast faction.
But didn't we just relay earlier that Scorn doesn't necessarily rely on their workhorse caster, whereas Khador doesn't necessarily rely on their workhorse caster?
No.
It's not what he said.
That's not
he
what
just
I
said.
said.
He
I said
likens
the opposite.
Khador casters to Signar casters, which he just said necessarily don't do all the work themselves, but they are a requirement for the army to do the work that it does.
Like Vlad with Signs Importance. If you put him in Scorn, not okay. Because 1, Speed 8 Titans would be dumb. 2, Signs Importance, not okay. Like, you
To
can't...
be fair, they'd be speed 10 because I'd still be rushing.
Oh, well, correct. And you could then ballast charge them, so they'd be speed 12.
Oh, I would not even... Why does this not happen?
Can't.
Is it not fast enough?
I don't feel like it just needs to happen now.
But that's kind of...
detained?
That's the Vlad pose.
But do you see my point where it's... Like, if you take the things in Khador and play them without a caster, they're really not that impressive. Like, Iron Fangs are still solid, but Winter Guard aren't scary without a caster behind them. Like, they can do work, but they're going to fall apart really quick.
I agree.
Or it's like, you can take Nihilators. Nihilators are solid. You know, Venators, solid. Satrati, solid. Like, you know, Karak suck, but, you know, you can only have so many good things.
They're so bad.
In Sindari, amazing. Without any help from the caster of all these things, the Beast package supports itself. Beast handlers make all of it work. So your caster is a force multiplier upon a small margin, where in Khador and Signar, they're a very large margin force multiplier because your faction is designed to not need the help. I'm not saying they're both balanced. I'm just saying that's the concept that they built upon when they made the options.
So the idea is Scorn doesn't have a power.
Where it's like Crix. Crix has usually casters that have a large impact on the game, but don't necessarily help out their units that much.
That's interesting.
So it kind of works in reverse. So I think the concept is that for Crix specifically is because they have to affect the enemy and they can't just I cast an upkeep and say go. Like That's why their like armor debuffs are more potent than other people's, because they have to be able to target you. And some things can't be targeted by spells. Sometimes you're going to miss. So you have the miss chance, you have to have an arc node, all these costs compound, and that's why Parasite is better than Ignite. Yes. Like, things like that. And that's why most of their troops hit harder than your troops.
Parasite also costs more.
It does cost more than Ignite.
I also think Parasite should have a chance to, if they critically hit a model that has Parasite on it, it should get lit on fire.
What?
I'm just talking.
Stop talking.
That confused me, too.
You were really grasping there.
Just reverse Ignite.
I'm like, do I play video again? Where it shows you being an idiot?
Side note, everybody watch L2 Headbutt.
Yes. And watch
Hear about how good Torch is at headbutting things.
Yeah.
He's so much better at it than other models.
He's got the head spike. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh my god, that was funny. I was editing that and I was just like, oh my god.
Titans are better at headbutting things.
I love Titans. I don't care how good the artists are. I love Titans. I have a special... Max eating his microphone. I have a very special...
My mouth is closed, sir.
I don't understand eating properly.
For the record, we're just sitting here calmly and Spence is losing his shit.
It's true. I'm fucking exhausted. I've been at work all day.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I really work, though.
Sorry, I laughed. Did you actually...
Paragon of society.
Yeah. Don't forget I recorded all that shit earlier.
Oh, shit. So, I want to play bronze backs into things. Well,
just play like one. It's on the shelf. You can purchase it before you leave.
Play like 7 bronze backs with Chain Gang. You'll be fine.
Can you do that?
I think so.
Do the math.
It's -1.
Stop.
He's like a +10.
You can do at least 5.
You can do at least
and
6.
And take like a gladiator still.
No, you can definitely do 6.
6 bronze backs.
How?
Chain Gang.
Those are 9 apiece. 9 times 6.
56. You don't have a Titan gladiator problem.
I understand you're talking about playability. I just want a lot of bronze backs on the table. Yeah.
And your 2 points of these handlers. Okay.
Why would they be there? I just have bronze backs. I'd like you to play a list against that.
That's true. You don't need to out-threat them when you get to countercharge 4 times when they charge you.
This Winter Guard charges your bronze back. I countercharge. I miss. Countercharge. I miss.
No, it doesn't matter because they're so terrible in melee. You just stop after you countercharge and engage him.
Yeah, bronze backs are going to be attacked by...
I play Chain Gang so I can get both mammoths.
Both mammoths. How many mammoths can you fit in your list?
2. Because they're only FA2.
I only play 2 Warcaster games.
Okay. All right. Do we want to go back to the Bart / what was that other caster? It was Bart and Gorton, and you get 3 Earthbreakers and 3 Galleons and Thor.
I love this so much.
It's pretty legit.
And Thor. Like, yeah. You threw Thor there because I'm
Well, Thor and Dougal. And I think it's 9 models, and it's 75 points.
Why do pirates and dwarves get along so well?
Because they're friends.
I guess.
Because the dwarves miss the sea life.
That's a thing.
Mountains, oceans, same thing. Okay. Really, when we think about it.
Let's do it overarching. Most overrated Warcaster and or Warlock in the game.
Overrated in the game?
In the entirety of the game.
Has to be one of the ones you already listed.
Right.
Dr. Arcadius.
Ooh. Did we do Winions?
We intentionally did not.
We did not do factions that don't exist, including conversions.
Or Ret.
We actually did Red.
Most overrated in the game, I'm going Bradius. Although I'm probably most likely incorrect. I don't know, it's actually hard.
Time will tell, but I honestly think that, realistically, this many times over again in the community of Warmachine and Hordes, we need to seriously just sit back and say, this is another time this is happening. And it's not even realistically on the same scale that Lich 2, Haley 2,
oh my god, Lich 2.
It's not.
Right.
It's not on the same scale. Like, think of how stupid that is. Think of how stupidly overpowered that was. And everyone's like, oh my god, what are we going to do? And that's not just one faction, 2 factions. Everybody had to stand back and say, what the hell are we going to do?
I think as a community, we need to be really careful about the growth of the community, because originally it was pretty small, and we prided ourselves on it being a tight-knit, friendly community that was generally positive. And since it's been growing so quickly lately because of, GW's games are taking a pretty big downturn, and there's just been a large influx of players, and even more so now with all the online communities like forums, podcasts, and everything are getting more mainstream, that people are doing the sit at home, read the internet, and comment without thinking. And we're getting a lot more negative comments and thought process than we did before. And everyone's thinking negative things all the time. And I'm worried that it's going to dramatically affect the game in the future. But it's really up to the community as a whole to make sure that doesn't happen. Because like the cheat gate, the scoop gate, there's been so many fucking crybaby issues lately.
I hate when you talk. But that was a great. That's
Okay.
fucking true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't really think that my initial concerns of joining the larger Warmachine community, because I played this game for a long time without talking to anybody except for my best friend Dan.
And that's my biggest
thing. I was afraid of meeting anybody else who played it because I just didn't want to get out there and meet these people because I had no reason to, no desire to get to know all these strangers because we were already playing the game we wanted to. And I didn't want to go play with you all because I didn't want to not like the way you guys played, or I didn't want to have to, figure out I was bad at the game. I am. I just didn't want to have to deal with that. But the community is completely different when you stop reading online. The community is completely different whenever you actually play face-to-face people. You get better at the game, not just through practice, but by learning actual interactions, by actually playing games. Like, you will win if you just put models on the table and push them at your opponent. Just look at every turn, push your models 4 inches across the table, and sometimes you'll win games because they do the wrong thing, or you do the right thing, or you do the wrong thing and they do the wrong thing, and just interactions will happen. You'll learn. Because it's easy enough to read the article as to how things work. It's easy enough to read that it could work this way, it could work that way. Max said this earlier. Why would you put Awakened Spirit on Mullet Karn? Okay? And Max says, well, it depends on what's on my other list. That's it. Yeah. You don't know what you're going to find. You don't know what's going to be an awesome combination. You can theory craft it all you want. But, I mean...
It's not often enough that people take things with a grain of salt when they read it online. And they don't stop for a second to consider that the person is exaggerating or, has just personally had a very dramatic or extreme experience with something, be it emotional or not. Like, oh my God, this is OP. Like, well, maybe you just made a mistake. Maybe you're playing the interaction wrong. Maybe your opponent didn't know what he was doing right. Maybe he just got lucky on the dice rolls and you didn't realize it. Like, stop and just consider that, hey, look, everything has been considered overpowered at one point or another. I remember when, we're doing our first journeyman leagues, and we were like, Striker 1 is OP, he's totally broken, and just because you haven't evolved beyond that point yet. It's very easy to think that new things or a changing meta is a terrible thing, and people need to just calm down and experience it before they really comment on it. Because I'd like to believe that most of the negative comments that we see online, or negative mindsets, are from people who don't really play the game and just watch the game.
Oh God.
Or
yes.
I can think of a few people in our local meta that, oh my God, need to just hurry up and quit freaking commenting on Facebook and forums and in public. That, especially since they don't even play the game, they're just trying to make it worse for everybody else.
Just do it. Just go play. Just go play. Go play the game.
Yeah.
Meet people. And some of these people you're not going to like. That's okay. That's true about literally everything you do. But you're going to meet a lot of people who will teach you really good things. And whether it's them directly teaching you or you getting to do something to them that you didn't know you could do, it's just... have I ever lost to Haley too? Like, we talked about this earlier. Like, we were talking about, perspective. I think it'd be good for another episode to talk about what we were...
I think I've lost to Haley 2 twice.
And it's not because I'm good, because I'm obviously not. You know my track record. You know all my stories.
I think I've been lucky enough every time I've played her, I've been at least very close, if not slightly ahead, to the person I've been playing against.
I'm pretty confident I've lost her at least. But it's I just can't... I don't remember it being a significant loss. Same thing with Lich too. But that's because of who I've played. So you're going to go online and you're going to read all these things about Bradagus, Lich 2, Morvana 2, a Fist of Halak. You're going to read all these things... And you're going to go out and you're going to play a million games against fucking Cray and Morvana 1 and fucking... How many games have I seen against Cassius in the past, 2 months? And people say horrible things about Cassius, but turn 1 assassination against me? I mean, that's really hard to get because I'm too good. But, I mean, you see what I mean? It's like you're going to go out there, you're going to play all these games, and all that crap you read is not going to matter.
Yeah.
So don't listen to anything we're saying.
Especially, if we're talking about players in the intermediate range, you're going to local tournaments, occasionally traveling, maybe an hour to a semi-local event, you really shouldn't be worried about what you're reading online. You should just be worried about trying to have a good time. and learning what you're trying to do. If you're feeling that you're big fish, small pond kind of situation, then maybe reading online if you're planning on going to a big event. But, I know that you haven't really traveled with us a lot, but we went to 5 or 6 major events last year that were national scale. And the kind of stuff people were talking about, we're not even really seeing. And what we do see is, the people we're playing against are still at our level. You're not going to be playing against, the world-class, WTC members playing Bradagus to the fullest of his abilities unless you deserve to be playing that person. Sure. So you need to just calm down and just play as best you can.
I'll say, one thing that I've noticed, actually, and not to toot a horn or anything like that, but I'll say that out of all the tournaments that I've been to, I've only gone to one tournament, and it's when we went up to Des Moines, where I felt like people who were playing there were generally on a higher play scale than me across the board. A lot of those people they've had more experience, they were just better at the game than I am. And you
the
all
Terminus player?
Yes. You all listen to this. You hear how bad I am at this game. And when I go to a large 12-plus people tournaments in my local meta, and this is not just one city, one store, this is several cities, several stores around here, I go to these tournaments, and I have more experience, I have more games under my belt, I have more than a lot of these players. And you see how bad I am. So when you go to don't be intimidated by going to tournaments. Just go. Just go out there and throw your models on the table, and you will be shocked at how well you do.
I remember when I used to play 40K, I used to hate traveling inside the city to different stores just because there was so often I would not want to play against the people from those stores just because it was a different social environment. 40K, it always seemed like as soon as you get matched up against your opponent, it's we are enemies. We don't want to like each other. It's we're both trying to gain some sort of stupid advantage over a loose rule set. And I just don't feel that way in Warmachine. The most recently I felt that way was when I was trying to teach someone the game. And I'm legitimately trying to throw the game to him, and he's trying to gain every possible advantage over me. I'm like, dude, I'm intentionally trying to lose, and you're trying as hard as you can to beat me. Just calm down and try and learn something, and we'll get to the winning the game when the game is over. It just, he's making it hard on himself just because he doesn't want to lose.
And winning in this game is not everything when you're playing.
It's not.
It really isn't.
Max seems confused.
What? Max has never lost a game.
That's true.
I think I've seen Max play one person, and Max took a 45-minute turn and beat that person.
That's good. It's a good start.
I had to think about it.
I like how you want us to believe that you thought about that. Max actually had 3 beers during that 45 minutes. He smoked 2 cigarettes, and he was on his phone the whole time outside. He came in,
rolled one attack roll, and scooped.
That was it. That was game.
Gotcha.
The other person cried.
The sad thing is, he believed me.
He walked over and said, checkmate. His opponent's okay, and start picking this stuff up.
Just scooped. But that's what happens when you play against Rhett. I mean, you could just do whatever you want. They can't do anything to deny it.
Well, I guess you got it.
Damn.
I was against Mercs, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't recognize other models on the table with you, sir. Whenever I imagine you put your models down, the enemy just picks up whatever the hell they have on the table and leaves. This is where we play We Are the Champions.
I can put that in, but we'll probably get sued.
And we are the
you don't have to.
champions, my friend.
Dear God.
And we'll keep on fighting.
You should see the lines it's making in Audacity compared to what it was before. It's like it's trying to kill itself with images.
I think that everybody should play Brandon.
Everyone should play me?
Yes.
Why?
Well,
because they want to not play anymore and they're going to hate the game?
No, I'm trying really hard to get better at not tilting. And you know me, it's every time I play right now, it's I do something just stupid, or I look at the table and I'm like, how do I deal with this? I can't possibly pull myself out of this. And you're a different caliber of player than the people I'm used to playing. And not that you're good, but
right.
You still play card chef.
Of course.
Your catcher's D. But,
dude, I play Avalanchers with card chef. And I top a 2 of those bitches.
I hate that fucking list. You're a terrible human being and it's not good.
I like that I had to explain it to Parker. He's like, why are you taking this stuff? I was like, well, if I didn't explain it to you, I would have just beaten you.
No, you wouldn't have. No, you would not have.
No, because I told him and he's like, wow, I totally would have gotten beaten by that. And then every time I bring up that list, he's like, "Don't talk about that list. I hate that list."
Well, I just feel like every time I've played you, I've had to learn something new in the game. Except for my buy, where my Harbinger had to fight
the Doom Reavers.
It was just stupid.
And he had such an advantage matchup.
Like, it was just so stupid. I was so mad the whole time. But what I'm saying is, like, it's been helpful to play somebody who has more experience than I have, because as opposed to him being a dick and just steamrolling me and not letting me make every mistake under the fucking sun, he lets me make a mistake. He's like, okay, well, that's probably not the best thing in the world. Like, you know.
You probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, that's
you should probably stop martyring that same errant that has 8 Doom Reavers that have just charged him.
Never live that down. And it's been beneficial, okay? And it's good to actually play somebody who has more experience than you, getting outside of your own little box of cracking your own egg. Like, you think you know the game. You do. You think you know different directions of the game. You think you know how to play your own faction, and you don't. You don't, because you haven't played a billion people. You've played the same 7.
If you feel like you've hit a wall and there's people around you that are at least your skill level or higher, try and get them to get some free time and play a game with you with the intent of you learning something. And it might be from anything of like, I want to win on scenario. Like, that's my goal. I'm very weak at winning on scenario because I don't win on scenario or whatever your problem is. And just do your best to guarantee you win on scenario and make your opponent play against you with the intent to stop you. And make it a game of scenario contention. Like, do anything you can to try and expand your game. And one of the other things I like to do is, after you feel like you know something, go back to whatever the rule is, like, you know, be it your army, like, pull out your 50-point list cards and just read every word on the cards. Turnover is like, okay, Berserk is only during activation. Like, read every ability word for word, don't skim, and, like, go back through the rulebook, read basic rules. Because once you think you know it, the wording is easier to retain.
Chain Attack just had something where they were answering people's questions on one of their podcasts, and I was just listening to it on the drive here.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned something about how long does it take before you become fluent with your faction. Like, how long before you know your faction inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
I know Menoth. I mean, large and small I do. And even after my years of knowing Menoth, there's always little things and interactions I have to relearn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Merle asked something just the other day. What was it? It was something about what gets rid of self-sack. Does something get around self-sack?
Something does get around self-sack.
No, he was asking about a specific mechanic.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he asked or what came first. Was it martyring or...
Tough.
No, it was, what the fuck was that stupid spell? Because I was playing with it and it was a random interaction. Morvana 2 had it. I think it was, Carnivore. It was Carnivore.
Yes.
And martyring or self-sacking, either one, I think, because they're both on disabled, yeah. And he asked me, he's like, you know, can you not martyr if I'm killed by a model with Carnivore? And it's just a matter of timing, and Carnivore is on boxed, and self-sack, tough, and martyrdom are all on disabled. So disabled triggers first if you don't know, and then you never get to the box stage.
So Carnivore doesn't get to RFP you.
Right, you never get RFP'd. He doesn't get a soul token, a corpse token, any of that crap. He doesn't get to remove you from play. The only thing that gets through tough and martyr and all that, as far as remove from play abilities, is consume.
Well, it's just
that, as far as I know.
Little interaction.
Entropic Force.
Entropic Force.
Anything that removes healing.
As far as remove from play.
Well, I think that, like, even after all this time, I don't know off the top of my head. I have to look back at the card and figure out the timing for every one of those abilities when it pops up. And I mean, that has something to do with fluency, but the thing is, no matter how well you think you know it, always go back and look, because you're going to guess, and then someone who's better than you is going to remember, and they're going to know the interaction, and they're going to catch you on it when you thought you were safe.
Well, even so, like, there's a lot of games I see people that just don't understand the interaction and thinks it works the wrong way, so they don't even try it. It's like, if you think that, you know, martyring doesn't work through Carnivore, and you don't try and martyr because you think it trumps.
Did you do something the other day that reminded me of this? Okay, I think I saw you tried to tough a Bastion, and it didn't tough, so you martyred?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you had to choose to martyr, and if you didn't martyr, then you tried to tough.
I don't believe so. I'm very sure that you can tough, and then if you fail to tough, you martyr. At the same time.
And it's your turn.
And it's similar.
It's not your turn.
It's not your turn. It doesn't matter, though. It's your effects or his effects is what the active player picks.
Okay.
I believe it's just active player always goes first. So he goes, you know, does damage to your guy. So he goes to disabled. So he resolves disabled effects, then you resolve disabled effects. Then he resolves boxed effects, then you resolve boxed effects.
Will you double check that at some point? Because, I mean, that's
I will,
legit.
yeah.
It makes sense. I mean,
Well, it's similar to the countercharge thing. This is really dumb. It makes sense if you think about it.
countercharge admonition.
Countercharge a model that charged me. So you charge, this is Borka 2 specifically, is kind of one of the situations. X model charges my Axer. Borka 2 is standing off to the sides. He countercharges the model that charged my Axer.
Okay.
Now, because of battle charge, my whole battle group gains countercharge.
Yes.
He critically slams the model that charged my Axer, knocking him away from my Axer and knocking him down. Now that my Axer is unengaged, can he countercharge the model that just charged me?
The movement has not. Well, okay. I would imagine not, just because...
You would imagine not, because the way timing works in our heads, because the way we play it, not the way the rules are written. You trigger all the effects. So you charge me...
They're simultaneous.
Right, but you only do one at a time. So Borka countercharges you...
Happen on a line instead of a...
Right, so we get to a point in time that triggers an effect. So your model ends his movement. Boom. That's the trigger point. I'm now going to trigger countercharge. Borka's countercharges your model, slams him away. Now, we're still at that moment in time, because we're resolving effects that triggered off that moment. Now my Axer will attempt to trigger countercharge, because we're still at that moment in time.
Check parameters. He is not engaged.
He's not engaged. Model ended within 6. He will now countercharge your knockdown model that charged him.
That's such an awkward ruling.
It is weird, but that's actually the way the timing works.
Has it been ruled, however?
Yes, Infernal's already ruled on it. That was a while back.
That's astonishing, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of... Well, and the thing is that actually opens up... I hate to take it to Magic the Gathering, but it's like the stack in Magic the Gathering.
Kind of. It's actually different, but yes.
Well, I think it's less color.
It's actually the opposite of the stack. It's the first in, first out. Because Berica would trigger the countercharge, he would countercharge. Axer would... It's just that you don't progress the timeline until all effects have been triggered. You have to literally basically say, I pass, before timing continues.
It's L5R.
Okay.
The card game, okay.
I never played the card game, because that was dumb.
It was an amazing card game.
That was bad. And you should feel bad.
I do feel bad, but it was an amazing
fair.
card game.
Okay.
So bottom line, go play people. Go find people you don't know and play them.
That's always a good idea.
I think it's just go find people.
You never know when you find someone you really enjoy playing against.
And you'll play against things you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they won't consistently call you with, hey, you should try this strategy, or hey, you should try that strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That's really my Vindictus. This is awesome.
That's fine. We can talk about that later.
Max says too. He looks so tired.
So, do you have any other points you'd like to make? I just have one more.
Oh, go for it. You're trying to be polite and let somebody else make one.
Right.
You do. Oh, okay.
Just basically summarizing our podcast, the difference between perceived value and basically what we consider to be true value. Basically, a lot of people put stock in what they read online, and that's usually generated by one or two people that have a strong opinion. Like, Will Pagani will post basically anything he feels like on that day is like law, and then some people will agree with him completely and some people will absolutely disagree with him, and whichever people are more vocal become the popular opinion. So don't necessarily take everything you read online and think it's actually factual, and you should always test stuff yourself. But that I'm not saying you should go out and buy a whole army of Man-O-Wars because you think it might work. I'm just saying that, sometimes perceived value is damning to some models. Like, for instance, we were talking about Morvana 1. Morvana 1 is bad in some matchups, but she's also extremely overpowering in more of those matchups. So, and I think she doesn't get a fair shake.
That's definitely true.
So it's stuff like that, and like Raza, I don't think Raza, or let's go with Vindictus instead. Vindictus, I've seen him played a few times, but that caster is a lot better than he is given credit for. I don't care what you compare him to, he's not that bad. If you were to re-release him in a new package and just gave him basically a new artwork, a new model, and renamed all of his abilities, people would be like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. Like, we finally got, Pathfinder on all of our stuff. We got +2 movement, got Defender's Ward, caster with a good stat line, and defensive tech, and a solid feat. And they're like, oh my god, this guy's really good. If he wasn't named Vindictus, he would be, I think, more widely played than he is. But someone decided he didn't like him and made that popular.
Somebody has to fix that. I mean, they really do.
Play him.
I'm going to. My wonderful Vindictus model that I love so much. Completely.
It's not term illegal.
Fabergé egg.
It's not term illegal.
It is completely not term illegal.
You can't play that in any of my tournaments. I'm telling you now,
still playing
in advance.
Every single one of them, it's going to happen.
Well, you're going to be disqualified.
I've been DQ'd from every one of your tournaments anyway.
So?
See? So it's victory.
But theirs is you got to play some games first. Now you're not going to.
Oh.
You won't get paired.
No play. Wait, you mean I don't have to play? I can just show up and be DQ'd?
Yes.
I will gather those. So, I don't know. I would just challenge everybody to go pick something that is not typically seen as mainstream and then play it. Just play the hell out of it. Just
that they believe has value.
well,
Don't just pick things at random.
No. If you like it, play it.
Mm.
I mean, if you like Resnick 2, go play him.
Mm.
I mean, you will... Hell, if anything, you'll realize what he's missing. You'll realize why he doesn't get played. And your perceived value, you will understand why he isn't or is not good.
Also, sometimes it's good to remember your strengths. Like as Kador, it's easy to try and fix all your bad matchups and then realize that, oh wow, I don't do anything anymore other than try and solve my bad matchups.
Can you tell all the Kador players to stop playing Zerkova? I'm tired of it. Literally every week somebody's telling me, no, she's actually good. I'm going to play her a ton.
She's bad.
Like I want to love her too. I want to love her too, but she's not good.
She's like 2 good spells away from being a really good caster. Her feat's great. She has good focus stat, obviously. She has some good support spells. She's missing like 1 or 2 signature spells that could really help her.
She's just and it's if you love playing her and you have fun with her, and
that's power to you.
Play the fuck out of her.
Yeah, play me more often. I would like to enjoy to teach you why I think she's bad.
She's just
no, don't get me wrong. I've won a game with Zerkova, but it was against a very new player, and I had to fucking work for that win.
I've won a game against Rhett with Resnick 2.
I think my opponent had like 6 games under his belt.
Oh, nice.
And I was working for that. I was pulling out that Watcher bullshit with the fucking Juggernaut. I stationaried his caster on a Watcher attack. This is the only reason I fucking won that game.
I've lost with Carver against Zerkova.
Well, that's fair. You're playing not a faction versus a faction.
It's not.
At least he had an army. You didn't even have a caster.
It's not fair. Carver?
No, I do think Carver's underrated. He's good.
Carver up to her, and I forgot about Watcher. Juggernaut walks over, dunk, stationary. I'm like, oh, well, okay, shit, game.
Well, that was fun.
It was nice.
You didn't, like, quagmire him and keep him over there?
No.
Good call.
Well, I'd like to think that I'm really good at this game. But I can't even lie to myself that well.
You write it on the wall every night, but it just doesn't stick.
I have a poster. It's like, you can win too, and it's a picture of Vindictus going, thumbs up.
He's like the Buddy Vindictus.
I think I may recarve my Vindictus now.
All right. Well, I think we're good for tonight. Thanks for listening. This has been Brandon.
Max!
Max is now awake again.
I've been awake the whole time. I'm just tired.
Max is never asleep. He's always just waiting. So says Spence.
Goodbye.